All right, good evening. I'm going to call to order the regular Board of Education meeting of August 27th, 2025. I have 7 p.m. If you all could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Richards, if you could call a roll call for attendance, please.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Here.
Mr. Powers,
Here.
Miss Berkmeyer,
Here.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Here.
Mr. Richards is here, Miss Knox.
Here.
Mr. Green.
Here. We have a quorum tonight. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Can we pull the personnel report from the consent agenda, please?
We certainly can. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented, with the exception of pulling the personnel report out for the consent agenda.
So request to have a discussion on new business regarding exit interviews.
Would you be okay if we did that all at the same time we did the personnel report? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Berkmeyer, supported by Mr. Powers. Comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, roll call if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Richards.
Miss Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Richards, yes, Miss Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes, motion carries. Moving on down our agenda, item D, superintendent's update. Mr. Jankowski.
Tim is going to pull up my presentation. Okay, Tim, if you can advance the next slide. Okay, just wanted to run through kind of where we're at with busing, to give you kind of an update. So, basics of busing are, it depends on the number of buses that you have. So number of drivers, obviously, distance to and from school, number of students on the bus, number of students at each stop, and the number of hazards or obstacles along the route. So if we can't, if we have to do a turnaround, if we can't turn around someplace, we have to go down, turn around in a parking lot or something like that. And then ultimately construction as well, as we're finding out this year. A lot of times people think like our goal going in was to try and get the routes as close as we could to where they were last year. And on an average route per minute, they actually are pretty close to that. Got rid of a lot of the routes that were over 60 minutes, even with the two buildings. And then just click again, Tim. So a lot of times, like if you look, this is an example. I know it's hard to see, but you can see the purple and kind of the magenta. These are two routes. So if last year this was one route, because if a lot of people are like, well, if you didn't add the second school, no, because it's actually more efficient if you have more kids getting on at fewer stops. And that's what we're trading off in order to have them go to that time to those buildings. So like these routes last year, when they were combined, were actually longer by like 3 or 4 minutes. So if you look at a lot of our routes, they're about 20, 21 minutes because that's the trade-off between the transfer. So that's kind of where we're at today. We brought the bus drivers in, and actually Todd can give you more information on this because he was kind of leading this up. So we had the drivers in, we had the drivers kind of work all the routes beforehand, and then knowing nothing substitutes for, you actually have to have kids. You actually have to have that. And then thankfully MDOT threw out today to actually start the real construction. So we know that's going to be ongoing. So we kind of hedged with all that. We hedged how long will it take for kids to get on the buses. We hedged for the construction. We're trying to avoid the whole 23-mile corridor at all. And so like today with the actual thing, we're kind of counting minutes and tracking that, and Todd and Steve were all out there. And I was checking just, okay, what time are they getting there on each of the cameras and from building to building and so on. And we're actually well ahead on most of the routes. So for example, like north, we kind of hedged our bets because we had no idea with the construction that they would get there. Probably like 7:40-ish we were kind of aiming for. Most of the buses made it there by, like, the first bus arrived at 7:32. The next series of buses were like 7:33. And then we basically had most of all except for two were there at that time. So we had two that were running late. In fact, you can click the next slide. So this is arrival, day one. So first real day of construction, this should wrap up, we're being told, by September 15th. We know it's going to get worse before it gets better because they're going to work their way down. They're resurfacing. I don't know if you saw what they were doing on Gratiot earlier in the summer. Most of the buses were earlier spots, so we think there's a lot of good, we'll be able to tweak that. We will not make any adjustments until the construction is done. Because if we make adjustments now, then if the construction gets worse, then we're going to be in the other kind of situation. We know the late buses, we know a bus driver missed a turn, so then that was it. They're still, because it's students getting acclimated, it's bus drivers getting acclimated into the flow of everything. Click again, Tim. So what we found is the shortest, we are using alternative routes to stay off of 23. So the shortest has been 11. We're actually, I'm not going to tell people because we don't want people trying to use that same route that they have. So it's been between 11 and 15 minutes, depending on the routes that they're taking. So we could see which one's best. Next slide. So we know that, but we also know more parents drop off in person on day one, because they're out taking pictures and so on. Same thing at the bus stops. It's a little bit slower. They're taking pictures. They're getting on the bus, talking to the bus drivers. Next. And then, so we have potentially fewer riders. So that might all settle in, because anybody who says that they might ride the bus at some point in time gets scheduled into the routes. And so that's part of, like, as we shrink it. So when we were comparing times to last year, we're comparing last year's like finish times to this year's kind of starting times. So we think that we can shave off minutes as it goes along. But for today, like, the arrival went fairly well. We just have to do some more education with, like, parents and all that to get the flow of traffic at each building. We kind of went through, we had a debriefing with the principals, talked about that. The dismissal was a little bit more challenging. Click again, Tim. So students learning what bus they are. A lot of them remember the buses from last year. It's a totally new route. And they weren't looking at, because when you get on, there's only one bus in front of you in the morning. So you get on that bus. So then getting them, that took a little bit longer. It took about 15 minutes to get kids on at North, and about 10 minutes to get on. We already have made some adjustments. We know that, like, when they first ran through, Steve and Todd and all that, so we had blocking for, this is where the buses are supposed to go so they can all fit. So we're going to readjust them at South. We're also going to change the flow of traffic a little bit for the buses at North so that they're going the opposite direction, because they were kind of going against the grain at the end of the day. So we think that will probably shave a considerable time off. So that's kind of where it's at for busing, and it's something you'll see a lot of quicker times originally, but we won't make those permanent adjustments. We're changing our buses routes every day. There's always people are like, my kid's not riding, my kid is riding, can they move here? So we adjust those throughout the year. If people have different times, it really depends on kind of where they're at. If you were in the middle, you get a balanced route. So it could be like 20 minutes there, 20 minutes home. If you're on the end, then it's imbalanced. So you might have a longer one. It might be 10 minutes, like 45 minutes there, and then like 10 minutes at back. And it just depends, because if you were the first one picked up, you are the first one dropped off at the end of the day, in order to kind of keep it fair so that we're not balancing all that. But overall, we're it's much more efficient. We have 3 more bus drivers coming on. We've already identified 3 routes that we know we're going to take. 2 routes, make those into 3 that will help. And we have additional buses that will help us do that as well. So I think you'll see each day as it goes through. And then once we kind of hit that September 15th, if they're done at that point, then we'll start making like some more hard adjustments to that, because they'll be wrapped up. And then that'll help, because now we can use 23 mile again and we can make those adjustments. So any questions on busing before we move on?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you guys have a prediction, like, say that when all the construction is done, about how much that might drop some routes, or like 20 minutes, or do you?
It really depends. I mean, it depends on the route, because if you're in east of county line, there's not a ton that you're going to just, there's not a lot you can chop off. In the local ones, probably like 20 of the 25, I think we can chop off like easily 5 minutes, and maybe in the 10. Now the concern is, what do we do if you don't want to be so tight that if there's inclement weather or something like that, then now you're running. So the discussion we had today was, do we kind of keep this one and use this for inclement weather? And then we just switch to that route, and then we can send that out, and then make them tighter, because it doesn't make sense to keep them totally like a lot, because you might have 10 days of bad weather, and then we have 181 days of school. So I think most routes will easily be 5 to 10 minutes, and then there'll be some that will go. And then depending, especially when these other bus drivers come on, I think you'll see those will be the ones that you'll see a larger chunk of time. But I know it's different, because we've kept the same routes roughly for every year. So if you were living in the same house, you're getting on roughly at the same time, and all of your kids. Now it's different, but overall, there's fewer, like if you were in St. Clair, you are now saving a ton of time, because it's if that half that goes to north than what they had before. So it's more balanced across all of the students.
Did we ever, maybe, I don't believe it was shared with the board if it was, but did you guys ever cost out like the difference if north and south were separated, like ran their own buses for their own buildings? Like what's the cost difference
Yeah,
doing now,
just
what we're doing now?
if the main challenge with that is, if you keep them separate, the amount we would basically, not probably double the amount of drivers, but at least be another third of drivers, just because you're covering the entire area to keep them separate. The other thing you can look at is what some districts are doing, that are they do hub, where parents or whatever or they bus to, like you'd bus to McCants, and then you'd have one bus that would take them from there. And that can be kind of wonky too. I mean, that offsets some of it. You could do that. But then now you have kids changing buses and all that stuff. But it would be it would be at least a third more, in order to do them totally separate, because they all have to cover the same route. Plus, you're not saving a ton
A third more of our total busing budget?
just for the middle school. Yeah, because elementary is still the same.
Well, what's a ballpark on that, like dollar number on that?
I-
Like
I
a third
don't
more
know,
of
I'd
$1
have-
million, a third
kinda-
more of $500? I mean,
Well, I would have to do some deeper analysis. But, we probably spend upwards of $3.5 million on education over here. But to Bill's point, that wouldn't necessarily change our elementary fund. But we did look at trying to send buses out, but it's really like would have them add probably, I think if I remember correctly, it was 8 or 9 buses, and then also bus drivers to that. So I believe that was somewhat cost prohibitive. That, but
Yeah,
I feel good about where we're at right now. I think that this tighten up a little bit, like Bill said, we're able to shave 5 and several routes.
I mean, I just know for myself, I would like to kind of even a ballpark number in the, not obviously today.
yeah. If
but,
you figure off the top of your
um,
if it's 3 million, 3.5 million, there's about 1,600 kids not going to the middle school. So you figure just about a third of our students. So let's just say middle school is about 1 million. So that would cost you, it's about 500,000.
I'm just wondering, like if that's anything the board would consider entertaining. I mean, even just for next year or at this point or something, but just something to bring back for our community if that's something to talk about budget wise. But my other question was, how are we on like the capacity on the buses? And this is more of I can only speak to what my own kids said today was that they were, for the middle schools, they were needing to like triple up on their bus in the seats. And to me, that's just more concerning, like, because the older kids are bigger. If you're tripling up, someone's half in the aisle, which then just kind of becomes not very safe. And then honestly, I thought maybe my kids rode the bus today, for example. I do usually drive them to school. They're riding the bus because they think they need to get their assigned seats and then they'll quit, I guess. But it's very important. But then to your point, you mentioned that like more parents actually drop off on day one. So that's kind of made me think, okay, then do we actually have more kids coming to the bus and we're already tripling up?
It will thin out as it goes overall. We just don't know who and what on the routes.
Right.
Yeah, because then you'll end up, some will go, depending on whatever the family situation is, they'll go, a parent will pick up 2 days a week, another, then 3 days a week they're on the bus. So that will all kind of filter out in the first few weeks.
Are we doing census counts on our buses every day now? Okay.
Yes, Steve, as they get off the bus, what time do they get there? How many kids? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. So we get, today, state kind of released the assessment data. So you can kind of see, I know this is probably way too small to see. For ELA, this is just a compilation for everything. So countywide, we were at the top for ELA. Again, and then math overall, we were second behind Armada for that. And then science, we were second behind, but we were still number one at 5th grade, which is good because as that's moving up, we continue to move ahead. Again, Armada was number one. And then social studies, we were just 0.6 of a point behind Armada as well. But again, so we were second overall in all the things. So they just released this today. So we have to continue to kind of dig through it. Moving on to our other assessment, this is growth over time. This is NWA. This is the state did the benchmark assessment. So we use the NWA map assessment. And so what you'll see is this is just kind of a touchstone for where we were back in 2021. And so you can see this is math K-12. And then if you clicked him, you can see, so we had at that point in time, because if you remember, for those of you that were here on my first board when we talked about growth versus proficiency, and we're looking for growth, and you can see one grade level got at least 16 points worth of growth that year. But one challenge that we had with math was that it was roughly every other year we were kind of not hitting. So those diamonds are the national average. The center of it is the actual national average. The top and the bottom is what they call a confidence interval, because there's always they always kind of put it in, because you take the test on one day and they're like, it could vary from day to day by this much based off of their research. And so that's why there's a gap there. So you could see, and it was hard to kind of sustain kind of growth, because you have kids that were kind of up and then then the next year they'd be fall a little bit behind. So finally this year is the first year. Click on the 24-25 for the first time for all of our math. We've exceeded, not only exceeded the average, so the middle, we've exceeded beyond the confidence interval. The other thing, click again, Tim. You can see, whereas before we would only get one grade level was getting 16 points of growth. And remember, we started this at the elementary, so we're working our way up. Now all of the elementary is getting at least 16 points of growth. And then you can see at the kindergarten, it says 13, that's actually kindergarten. And so are getting 20 points of growth. So we're seeing this broader level of kind of raising all the boats. And so that's been good to see. And so the first time, this is the first time that we've kind of hit all that. So this is kind of like I was explaining to the staff on opening day. This becomes kind of base camp. So this is our new baseline. And so what we want to do is keep pushing past that. We know because there's a lot. There's the realignment. There's teachers who had moved to different positions and so on. That has kind of made a lot of adjustments to things. So, we might see some difference to that, but as the teachers kind of get more settled into their spaces, more settled in with the instructional approaches we're taking, we hope to just keep continuing to build on this. Same thing for ELA. ELA, so we started last year, was the first year with the more science-based reading approach, and you can kind of see this is where we were. So K5 has kind of been the focus. Really, K2 has been the intensive focus because we're going to move up by grade bands K2, 3, 5, actually 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then through the high school. And now you can see this year, again, they're all, and you can see again, we had one grade level that was hitting 16 points of growth on average. Then if you look at this year, again, so again, they're all positive in the direction. And then if you again focus in on where we've been, the bulk of our curricular work has been, they're all kind of for the first time above that because kindergarten was kind of behind it originally. Then click again, and you can see where it was 16 points of growth. Now where we've really focused, which was K2, you're seeing again, all of those grades are hitting at least 16 points of growth. And then first grade, which was at 16 points of growth, is now hitting 20 points of growth. So we're kind of seeing the same trend that we saw with math. It's just we started that a little bit later, kind of, and that'll continue to move up. Same thing, next slide. AP scores. So this is at the high school level. This is, as I was explaining to the staff, I'm like, this is kind of, again, we're looking at growth. How can we kind of expand that? Because we used to, you had to have teacher recommendation to go in there. It didn't matter how you're doing on like NWA or anything. So if you look at this, this is our 5-year trend of AP scores. And you can see, so we were 2021, it's actually 54% there, then up to 70% and 76, 78, and then 70, which at first glance, you're like, okay, well, it dropped a little bit. But then if you click the next slide, this breaks it down. What we've been kind of challenging teachers are any student who wants to do it, any student that has a certain proficiency or like NWA score, we're going to tell them, hey, you can do this. This is an opportunity for you. So in 2021, we had 250 students take tests, and they took a total of 454. And then this past year, we had 329, and they took a total of 654 tests. So you're seeing basically a third more taking the test, and then you're seeing just under a third more of tests that are actually taken. And the nice part has been that the percentage of students that are getting college credit is still hovering around 70%, which is much higher than where we were. So again, you're seeing that larger group getting more success as that goes forward, which has been nice to see. Next slide. We're just going to take you just on a quick, we did a tour for some of the board members before, but I want to take you on a quick tour of, and especially for people who haven't been able to see it yet. This is what we did on our summer vacation. You can see we have new clocks that are going in across the district. They have at 3 buildings have most of them in. They are working second shift to do that. The lower left-hand corner, it's not anything like, it's not anything amazing, but for us, we'll have a generator now that goes for our core tech system. So then when we lose power, we won't lose phones, we won't lose email, we won't lose our network. Next slide. This is just the exterior of the high school. You can kind of see where, and you'll see the interior of some of the things. So we replaced the windows above the main entrance. I don't know when the panels, I don't know if it was glass originally. I couldn't figure this out, but they used to have these plastic panels. They leaked. They were degraded by the sun. So now we've replaced it with glass, with insulated glass. So it makes the whole high school look much more cohesive, and it keeps everything more energy efficient and dry, which is nice. Next slide. The roof, they continue to make progress on the roof. They're almost done with the actual building sections of it. They're moving on to the penthouses, which are where like a lot of mechanicals are. So that should hopefully be wrapped up in the next month or so. Next slide. And then this is the inside of the media center. Just tremendous like difference from where it was. It's been updated and new furniture. Next slide. You can see more flexible seating. The books are to the left. Next slide. New circulation desk. And again, it's pushing it out a little bit, getting more so you can see more of the media center as it is. Next slide. This is the Student Success Center. And so finally the furniture has been in there. This is the new engineering room. And this is, nope, next slide. The back, this is again, not one of those like super like great things that people are like, wow, this is great. But we added another pump, we added a cistern and all that stuff because our goal is not to have to replace the aux floor again, because we've been replacing it about going back. I think it's been replaced 4 or 5 times in the last 20 years. So hopefully this will maintain that. We know we'll have to come back and do some concrete work down there, but that should hopefully, because it seems like we get 100-year rain about 3 times a year now. So that'll have that. Next slide. Just another shot of it. So you can see that should hopefully alleviate any flooding. We've been pretty good at our buildings. The repairs that we've made have really seemed to help and stuck. Next slide. So this is a overhead shot of the restaurant, which you've probably seen before, but now students are actually can use it, and they're getting ready to open. And again, next slide. This is part of the addition. You can see the hallway has opened now. The exterior is set, and the restaurant's ready to go. Next slide. This is the auto shop. This is part of phase 3. So that's been approved. So again, students are in there. And then the expanded weight room where we flip the wrestling in the weight room. And that is open for student use as well. Next slide. Another one of those things where it's not really, you don't see it, but this is changing the heating and the cooling. So this is for north. So these are rooftop units. We also did univents in each of the classrooms we did about 50 classrooms. Next slide. Also the playground. So the playground's in place. It was nice when we were on the tour to see a lot of people already kind of making use of that. Next slide. Then classrooms. So these are 2 classrooms at North. What we did is we color coded them based off of the team. They have some flexible storage furniture, flexible teaching stations, and all of that. Much larger classrooms. These used to be about 640, 650 square feet. They're now just about 1,000 square feet. And again, you can see the flexible storage on the left. This is the seating in the waiting area for counseling. The new counseling center is part of where the media center is now. Next slide. This is the new life skills room. And so you can see on the left, basically, we just updated everything. We did 1-for-1, same spots. On the right, you can see these are the cabinets. We were trying to find a way that we could do front of room. And so basically those cabinets, they're all whiteboards. So you can use that as instructional space as well. And then moving on to Lighthouse, this is a classroom at Lighthouse. So we redid that in preparation in a few years for this to be the early childhood center. So we'll have early childhood, GSRP, ECSC will be in there. So updated lighting, updated flooring, updated paint, updated heating, cooling, and the fire system, because it has to be voice driven. It can't just be an alarm anymore. So all that was done. We abated the asbestos that's in there. Next slide. This is the hallway. This is the main hallway. So if you're looking down towards where if you're headed to the office, much brighter. I don't know if you recall, it used to have carpeting, and so that was kind of worn out and had some patches. But now this is the next thing. It's just tremendously brighter from what it used to be. And then this is the music room. While we were there, we also, again, this had carpeting, it had bubbles, it had patches that had become worn. So we were able to do that. So a nice new music room. And then the playground on the outside. This will be for ECSC when they move into there in a few years. And then this is also, this is still under construction right here. This will be what the office will be for ECSU. They'll use what used to be the original entrance to the building back when that was the only school that we had. Next slide. And then this is moving to south. So this is a storage building out back. That's been put in place. We're also updating the bathrooms that are there. So they're ready to use, and students can make use of them during like practices and things like that. Next slide. And then this will be done in probably 6 to 8 weeks. This is the band room. This used to be the auto shop. So now that we've moved the auto shop to the high school and we have a much larger band program with them combined, they will have a nice large room for them to do that. To the right, there's actually some practice rooms that they'll have as well, kind of like what we have at the high school. But it's kind of coming together. And then next slide. And then lastly, this is with the rebranding. This is what we've been doing at each building. They're now TARs. There's not sailors. There's not pirates. It's been nice to see kids taking pictures when they were on their tours of the building with the one TAR, and then the new uniforms for football that represent, our one TAR concept. Any questions on all of that? I know it's a lot. Okay, thank you.
I actually have
Oh,
a
yeah.
question,
Yeah.
not bond related, but
Okay.
can you talk about what's going on with SAC? It sounds like from a lot of the parents I'm talking to, we have an issue with not being adequately staffed. It's creating situations where people who need access to SAC aren't getting it. Sounds like perhaps one of our buildings isn't even approved. What is going on with SAC, and what can we expect to change, hopefully very quickly?
So SAC is always we've done a lot to kind of staff up on SAC, and we actually have more than we've had because we started using our teacher cadets to kind of help them be those assistants. The challenge that we have is one with the new spaces. The state is just overtaxed. We used to have one kind of inspector for all of those, and now because they're just overwhelmed with adding those, they're basically what they told us for the short term, they're pulling the one inspector and they're giving us one for every. So we'll basically have 7 different inspectors. And we're like, we can't, they're like, we'll get you back down to 2, but it's just, you guys are so far remote. So that's a challenge with Middle School North, is getting that through the actual approval process. We're constantly interviewing, trying to find people. Morning is fairly good. We've struggled every year to get enough people to handle the amount of SAC that we have. Part of it is just time period. So the afternoon is a challenge because that would be basically from when school ends, roughly 3 o'clock to 6:30. So it's hard to find people who want to come in and just work those like 3.5 hours. So we've been reaching out to anybody and everybody. We've been trying to take people that are working at other positions during the day and see if they want to stay and kind of cobble that together. But the more we expand it, the more people want it and need it. And especially now, I mean, you have more people that are doing it. So it's every day we are like out there and we get interviews and we have people and we're trying to get them lined up.
Is it a money issue about pay? Because I mean, here's where if I'm a parent, right, and you're telling me, sorry, you're on a wait list with 30 people ahead of you for SAC, and I'm looking at a school district that's taken enough of the public's money to build up a $15 million fund balance and $160+ million bond, And like the new floors and the media center and all this stuff is great, but if we can't deliver on the basics, like before school and after school care, which is essential to what we do, like none of that matters. And as there just seems to, it seems like there has to be a better way, and we need to fix it because
Mhm.
it just doesn't work for our community if we can't provide it. The middle school north, I mean, that's a year plus in the making. Is it that backed up, inspectors, that we couldn't get that approved in over a year?
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing we ran into this last year with, just the early childhood. We put in about 9 months before and then we just could not get it approved. We couldn't get people to come out and to approve everything because it's not just one inspection, it's several. You have health, you have fire, you have all of that. They keep adding requirements as well. And so we put in, for example, let's take the early childhood expansion. We put in before we heard the governor was going to mention in her speech. So we put in before that even happened to expand that. So that was, I think, last week in January, I want to say, and then did not get approval until right before Thanksgiving. And it's just that everything gets funneled now through the state. The state moved everything over. They took it out of MD. They put it into what's called My Leap. So it's in preschool and then it's everything after. So then that was all new people who didn't even know a lot of the licensing, and they just don't have the volume of people. The same thing with SAC is we increase salaries. Part of that is negotiated. I mean, there's some where we're trying to get them to kind of come to the table to try and do more of that, but it's also a lot of it's just the time. I mean, it's the afternoon. The morning we're pretty solid, but even like our kids, they have stuff after school, so they can't be those assistants, but they can do it during co-op, and that's fine. So we're solid there, but it's in the evening where it's just a challenge. And it's everybody has a waiting list all over, and we're trying as much as we can. We have it out on social media. We have it like anybody who wants that, but it's people you're basically 3 to 4 hours all day during that time. So you can't be there if your kids are coming home. And because that's basically what it is you're covering for people who can't be there for their own kids. So that's a shortage, is finding people who want to do that at that time period.
Okay, I'm kind of not following because we're not getting the spaces approved. I mean, we've had some of these spaces
Yeah.
before. So like when you get a space approved, like let's say Great Oaks hasn't really had construction or nothing's changed. So can you expand the space there without,
If you move into a new room, then that has to be in any area that so like, I'll just walk you through. So like middle school north, basically for those programs, or in most of our buildings, it's the media center and it's the cafeteria that you use, because typically they have snacks, they have things like that. If you go beyond those are expanded places and you have to have licensing for them. It's the same thing like when
so was the plan for North to have them at North for a
Yeah,
SAC
they had-
program or at Lighthouse?
no, they have them at North. They have that program at North.
Okay, is there
That's
space
the one we're
at
waiting on.
like another, like I know right now, for example, we don't, like McCons typically has had trouble like staffing SAC, so we put them at Ashley and bus them over. Could we do that with North students? Can we house them somewhere else that's already approved? Like is McCons approved even though it's not
No,
being
yeah,
used?
we have other ones that are used. It's just when
'Cause now it's like, sounds like you're saying we have staff, but we don't have approved space. So do we have, is McCons have an approved space that we can now put staff at and we can make room either
yeah,
at Ashley or
none of
McCons
our
for,
spaces, depending on we have staff at the space that we have, and we already have waiting lists for all of those.
so we still need more staff.
So we still need more staff. We still need more spaces as we go along. I mean, it's, I don't, I haven't talked, like Carol, we talked last week, but then we check in every week in order to kind of see where we're at.
I mean, so I guess I agree with Brian in that sense of, like, I feel like we should be bending over backwards to kind of try and help out with SAC. I mean, we have salaried employees around the district. Like, can we make a, can we have a revolving, 1 week on, 1 week off of assisting? Having other employees assist as SAC?
Yeah. I mean, we're already been contacting employees and saying, hey, is this something that you want to do and add on to if they were, like, if we have a lunch.
It's probably an all hands on deck situation. So, I mean, like, let's get some people that, like work in this building, doing a week on, a week off of SAC to help out and be another body so we can put more kids in there.
Okay, well, yeah, we can look at that.
I guess
We-
my
we
main
also-
point is I'm sorry, go ahead, Pat.
No, go ahead.
I've already talked. Go ahead.
I'm also thinking, Lisa, we have CBAs that are in place. So, if employees are asked and they don't want to work what would be considered overtime, they don't have to. We can't make them. I see both of your points, but I got to be honest with you is I guess I never understood. I was fortunate that my kids didn't need SAC. My number one concern is educating my kids and getting them to school safely and providing teachers for them, not focusing on SAC. I'm not saying that it's not important and that we don't need it and that our parents, there's, a certain group of people that need that. I get that. But I don't agree with you, Lisa, that we should be throwing everything at this but the kitchen sink, because I don't agree
if
that
we-
SAC is that important to this district. When the bell rings, if I've gotten my kids to school there, I feel like I've done a good job on a bus. Phil and I have talked a couple times this week about transportation. You were involved with a conversation today. I honestly, I feel like SAC, I don't want to say it's a privilege. That's not right. That's not an appropriate term. I'm reaching for another term to use, but me taking care of kids before my school day starts doesn't call for me to throw everything at something but a kitchen sink.
Well,
I-
it's what we've become. Like like when I went to Anchor Bay in the 80s, it wasn't a thing, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it was up to the family to figure that out.
Right.
That's not the way it worked. Like we've set up these programs so that this is the way it works now. And it's been for a long time that people have had access to before school and after school care. We have way more dual income families in society today than we did in the 70s and in the 80s. And like, I'm sorry, but a mother or a father can't go into work and, every day and be like, hey, sorry, I'm an hour late again, but you should see these pickleball courts we got. Like, we need to focus the priorities on the basics if we really want people to be excited and realize all these big, bold,
And-
wonderful things we're doing. And I appreciate the fact that we're trying. I don't doubt for 1 second that we're trying hard to fill these spots, but if we're continually trying something that's not working, then let's come up with a new plan. And whose job is it to come to you
No,
or this board with like,
Yeah.
hey, here's some new ideas, here's a new plan. Like, human resources is very important, but if you don't have the humans, the resources part doesn't matter.
No, I'll tell you the challenge. So first of all, you have different funding pots for all that. So for what we have for the bond cannot be used for salaries, cannot be used for anything. It can't be used for like maintenance or anything. It's like you can buy a pickleball court, you can buy a wall and things like that, but you can't use it for salaries. No, I know. But I just want people to understand.
We can't expect the community to be all in on investing in
Yeah.
our school district the
No,
way
I-
they have if we're gonna turn around and say, we're doing so much. There's all these great things going on, but we can't deliver on the basics.
No, and I don't disagree with you on that. But typically, and this is most districts and even here, it's like SAC is what you get for your foundational allowance, okay, is typically used for what from bell to bell, okay? Transportation, supplies, salaries, things like that. SAC is an ancillary service that's not part of your core thing. So we do not, and most districts don't, and this is something that the board could decide on. You don't backfill that out of your general fund, okay? So then your decision is, do you raise the cost at what it would be in order to basically break even? Okay. So what do I raise it? So we always try and keep, like, we look at the market rates for everything else. We try and keep within that. And then we set salaries based off of what is that going to be? So at the end, it is revenue neutral, or some years it might cost us like a little bit or whatever, and we can make it up and all that. Because otherwise, you can raise it and you can get like people, but then now how many people are just not going to do it because it's so cost prohibitive for them? So then the big question is, do you want to backfill that out of the general fund where now you're not, it's basically the decision is SAC versus textbooks or something like that. No, and we're in a good, I didn't put it on here, but I know I've shared, like, last year, 60% of districts went into their fund equity. This year it'll be 70 to 75%. And we're solid. We'll be like, our enrollment looks like we'll be up 74 students, somewhere around there. But that's the big thing, because then if you backfill from the general fund for that, what's the difference between backfilling for the other like things? And so, and I think that's a really good discussion to have, because I agree with you. That's why we expanded our early childhood center. I mean, we've basically doubled that. We're hoping that what comes through, and I think that's why our kindergarten numbers this year are up, because we're keeping what we have. And we want to provide those services. It's just, where do you, there's just some complications on what, do you want to take that out of the general fund, or does it have to be self-sufficient? And that's, I think, a good discussion for the board to have.
Well,
Lisa,
I think I
go
would
ahead.
also disagree, Patrick, with your assertion well, I get the premise of what you're saying about, what is our focus as a school district, but on the flip side, to Brian's point, in today's economy, lots of, dual income families, and, just the way of life for a lot of families. If we become a district, or if we have a reputation where we are turning away so many people for SAC and we can't fill and we can't do, they're going to go elsewhere for kindergarten, and they're going to go somewhere that is providing it, because some families don't have another choice.
Mhm.
And so if we don't offer it, we're just going to lose that enrollment. And so, that'll turn into a different issue, which, may have affected us in the past, because I know, being on this board and things in the past, like, I do appreciate and agree that, I think Phil has done a lot to, fill and, like, create the SAC spaces and, get employees and use teacher cadets and get people in there, to be able to work them. And they've still filled, and we still have this demand. So I think we're up from what we used to offer, considerably, but we still have this demand. And so, I think we just have to keep looking to ways to grow that, for that reason, because my concern is, particularly at those younger ages, and as we keep continuing with expanding preschool and GSRP options. GSRP is a full day program. Parents get used to having their kid, gone for a full day. They're going to enter school, and if they need that before or after school care, that GSRP generally offers
Yeah.
at
Standard.
cost.
Yep.
And we don't have it, they're just going to move on from us.
Yeah.
So that's the way I'm looking at it. And I also just agree that, it's obviously something that we have going on in the community in demand right now. And, I feel like I'm asking, we ask for votes for bonds and different things, and then we're turning around saying, it's like, it feels like we're saying, sorry, we can't help you out on the back end, so again, that's going to turn around and hurt us one day too.
How many students do we have now that, or last year, that attend SAC?
I would have to look that up.
Okay. So if we get that information, that would be great.
No,
And
I
that-
know I can, if, I don't know the exact number, but I know, there's probably 150 that are on the waiting list. And
That was my next question, is how many are on the
Yeah.
waiting list?
So is that 150 more this year compared to last year?
no, we've never
Roughly.
been able to fulfill that's always been, even as we expand, then we get more people on the waiting list, and then that's kind of how it goes.
Was our waiting list that large last year?
I don't believe it was that large.
Okay.
Um,
So one of the things, just so the board knows, obviously, if you looked at your board packet, we are increasing the wages for
Mhm.
our SAC people tonight. It's on our non-affiliated item 6 under new business.
Yeah.
But again, if we're going to do it, I guess I would kind of agree with, Brian and Lisa, let's do it right. So I don't know what other options we have aside from increasing the
The-
wages. I don't know if we're reaching out to colleges to their, their early childcare programs. I'm sure Macomb has
No.
one, St. Clair has one.
We do.
And I think what Brian's probably looking for is, I don't want to call it a center point of contact, but somebody who's kind of really focused on this. I
Yeah,
know,
no, Carol.
I know Miss Gonzalez is swamped with what she's
No,
got going on.
Carol is focused on this. And when we look, like, for example, Head Start, St. Clair had some issues with their Head Start. Then they decided they're just going to kind of condense all the way down to Port Huron. So we basically get their staff and we're like, hey, do you want to work here? We can put you in those positions. Now, most of them are like, I need to work more than 3.5 hours a day or something. So that becomes a challenge. I think the big question for the board is, do you want to use general funds to do that, or else in order to offset it, because it's always, the rule has always been for those other programs that you are basically backfilling. It has to be self-sustaining. So, and if the board wants to use general funds, then that's it. I mean, we can increase those rates. Now, the challenge that you'll have, because again, it's a small amount of hours there. Again, you could set it at a pretty high rate in order to get people, but then you're going to have every other bargaining unit that's saying, oh, that's what they're only working 3 hours and they're getting this, and so there are ripple effects. To that.
They want a higher hourly rate, but less overall money, then tell them to go work for SAC. Like, I'm sorry, but like,
Yeah.
I'm not here for the whining about one bargaining group against the other. I'm here to fix a problem.
Yeah.
And I don't think I don't think parents who have kids that need SAC really give two blanks about whether it comes out of the general fund or this fund or there. They want the problem fixed. And I think I can only speak for myself. My expectation as a board member is I would like to see a plan on how we can fix it. And that goes beyond we're trying really hard. Because I fully appreciate and I believe we are trying really hard, but sometimes you need to try something different. And I would like to see a plan on how
No,
the problem can be
I
solved.
get that, but basically short of backfilling it from the general fund, I guess that would be the direction I'd need to know from the board.
It
You,
needs to be finance, right? We have to talk about.
Well,
finance.
that's
Well-
what, can we get a plan of, how much out of, what is it gonna cost? Like.
yeah,
Bill
I don't know what it
nailed
would
the
be.
movement, Right?
To,
Like what
yeah,
that would.
I don't know
cost.
what that rate necessarily would be at the moment. I mean, we're moving it up, but then, I
Right.
mean, we can survey the people that are there. How much are you willing to pay for that?
Right,
and-
but you said every year you kind of look at the market.
Yeah, what everybody else is charging. Because that's the other thing. If we increase it, then they will definitely go someplace else.
How do we fit into the market?
We try and keep it, I mean, we try and stay towards the lower end of it in order to be competitive on that.
That's what I was waiting.
So, yeah, I mean, we can pull it up because Carol always comes in and says, hey, here's what the rates are around everybody else. We look at all of that. The rates are going up. I mean, that was one of the things, like our neighboring district, we got a lot of people who came for early childhood all of a sudden because they doubled their early childhood rates. And that was to get past the challenge of, if you're GSRP, your teachers, you were getting more than the full FTE from a regular student versus just paying $200 a month. So you're getting, basically if you did 4 days, it was 10,000 a student. And if it's 5 days, it's 12,000 versus $200 a month or whatever it was for the whole thing. Well, because we had this discussion, I want to say probably a year and a half ago, where you're doing now early childhood versus GSRP. They're both working the same amount of time. But your GSRP, we can pay you more because we're getting more money because you're not paying it. It's coming from the state. Otherwise, we're telling you to do the same exact job sometime in the same exact building with the same exact materials, but you're getting paid. You're getting paid like a third of what the other one is, just because if we raise this enough, they won't pay what the rates are for GSRP.
Will throwing money at the problem fix it? I mean, can you,
Yeah,
if you get more money out of the general fund,
Yeah.
what would you do with it? Are you going to raise
Well,
hourly rates? Are
You're
you,
going to raise hourly rates. Then again, you just, that's, I mean, we can survey people and see where they're at. And at what rate in order to do that. And then it's the market will tell whether they can come in. I mean, right now you can see the rates that they're at. The challenge is you can go work at Burger King, you can work at Taco Bell, and they're starting at some of those at the same salary. So then if you're going to go above market on those, then now you're driving up the tuition rate for SAC. So it's this, it, you know, it's like with everything. It's, what's the old saying? Everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to die to get there. So somebody has to pay it. If we're paying out of general fund, so you might, like perfect example, because you might see, this will be part of legislative, but we'll kind of hit this early. We are already expecting that we are probably not going to get the October state aid payment. Okay. Like we can roughly make it 55 days without a state aid payment. Okay. So then at that point, it's like, okay, it's not a huge amount, but it happens. I mean, your burn through on a daily basis goes through that. So right now, because it's never really happened, so we don't know. The last shutdown was 2008 during the middle of the Great Recession, and they went about 6 hours and they passed it and we got a state aid payment. But those are the trade-offs. There's nothing that happens in a vacuum. It's like, yeah, we're fine. We can increase it. Do I know what? No, we'd have to see. But the general restraint on all of that has been, it has to break even. And if we're not going to do that, then that's fine. Then it just takes a motion of the board and we can look at that and go forward.
When was the SAC deadline to register?
Well, SAC is always, it's a rolling deadline because we put on a waiting list, and if something opens up, then that person moves in. So, I mean, we do have it during the summer, and we're always trying to hire throughout the entire thing to kind of fill those spots. So
My point is I'm feeling like this is a discussion we probably should have had in June. If we saw the writing on the wall, if you will, that we knew we were going to be in a bind. So I would be curious to see how long our waiting list was in May, June, July. And maybe we missed an
I don't
opportunity.
think you had a way, there's a window that opens up, right?
Yeah.
You know, this date at this time, you can start signing up for SAC. I've talked to people and I have to take them at their word. My children are older, so I'm not, involved in it anymore, who told me they literally signed up within an hour of the window opening and were already told they were on a wait list. So they never had a chance. And that's just not fair. Like they never had a chance.
But one of the, I mean, SAC is so popular because the alternative SAC in the private sector is the price of a Cadillac a year, for goodness sake, to get childcare. At the same time, I see people arguing over, I'm not going to give another cent of my tax money. You're not going to buy another pencil. We can't buy our teachers pencils and paper. So it's a very difficult spot.
I guess
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I want to, sure, I really want to take care of all of the kids, but at the same time, if you're going to pull more money away, and me as an employee of Anchor Bay, if I have to buy another social studies book for the resource center, it gets very frustrating.
I guess I would just like to see if we kept SAC rates even at their current, like we didn't increase the rate to parents. What is it going to cost to us to add what we need to add to end our wait list as it stands at the moment? Like you said, I know it's rolling, but to see what would that cost us, and then bring it to the board. I hate to say in a month because the people are waiting already, but
we can.
to do something with the
We'll have finance
run it through
committee meeting.
committee first to see if it's
Yeah.
even got traction, but then, to see if we're even gonna consider that, to go through. And then obviously, but after that, or at that point, then maybe the finance committee or someone can play with the numbers and say, okay, well, if we raise rates, I don't know, $1 just for ease, that would offset this by this much. It wouldn't touch the general fund. We can kind of come up with those scenarios, but I think we have to pick a starting point of, okay, as it stands right now, if we got everybody off, this is what we'd have to do. So that's what I would want to see. And then, and I just feel like it's an all hands on deck situation, so we should be kind of just churning our wheels and figuring out, you know, who do we have in district that can, you know, put in some time or do, you know, do what we need to do to open up more spots, until we can sort it out. Because, you know, to all those things, enrollment, bonds, I mean, we've asked a lot out of our community with bonds and all sorts of things, and middle school changes and changes that came about that were not, you know, not originally part of the bond. You know, we've asked a lot of our community, and so I just feel like we owe this back. And this is just one way that we can kind of help fix that for families.
If North were to be cleared tomorrow, is that going to fix your problem?
The space wise, that will help. And then, yeah, we're still working on staffing right now. We're putting staff where it's already licensed and then trying to line people up. And we have, or like, we had 3 people that were kind of like in the pipeline to come in, and you know, they have to, you know, you have to have a license and you have to do background checks and things like that. So yeah, I mean, that's the conversation Todd and I always have with Carol and all that is there's so many moving parts. We don't want any one thing to hold it back. So we'll hire somebody, because even like early childhood, you know, we'll hire somebody even though we don't have the spots approved yet for it. And then we'll put them in another class in the time being, because so we have the person. And then when the room comes online, we're already there. So we're not letting any of this, we're not saying we're going to not hire people till we have the spot. It's when we have people, we'll put them someplace and then we'll try and expand that program while we have it, because this isn't set yet.
Is this also a situation where community members, board members calling our reps could be helpful?
Yeah, it's
Or is that not helpful?
no, it absolutely would, because, well, I mean, this is the childcare state and national wise. It's the
Right.
hardest part is, yeah. And the other thing, this is part of why we're trying to expand a lot of our extracurricular things, because here, like we did cooking club. Okay. This is a perfect example. Okay. I do SAC. I have all these licensing things I have to go through, and I have all of this and safety and things like that you have to go through, water testing, lead testing, even like this building. We did lead testing. This building was built after they stopped using lead, but we still have to go through that. But if I do an elementary or 5th grade or a middle school cooking class, I can give those same exact kids knives and let them use ovens and all that stuff like that. And I have no licensing for that. So that's been our other kind of like coming at it from different angles. Let's get these programs together so we can kind of have something to go.
There's a
Now,
need for North.
I mean, I'm not
cooking.
trying to be funny, but like, can we have a 6 a.m. cooking club?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean,
If you have people who want to do that, that's why we tell people, if you want to do that, we will add it in there.
breakfast club.
And
Are you volunteering?
No,
that's-
no, I'm not. I'm trying
Yeah.
to think outside the
Just-
box.
no, but
Club at North?
no, and the thing is,
Come in and make breakfast, right?
the morning
Just-
part is not, the morning part is where we can get
For
people,
now.
because they're, especially,
For
we can get kids that do that. It's that afternoon time where everybody's like, oh, like our kids, no, I'm on basketball or I'm on football, I'm on this. So because the first thing we did is we just, most of our kids, we do the teacher cadet, and we had the largest teacher cadet program in the county. I mean, in this summer, I think there's like 50 kids and 30, some of them are ours. And then they go into, they become the assistants for that, because they're not old enough yet. You have to be an adult to be the lead teacher. So we did that. That helped expand the program. But then our demand grew. And so we do those things, and same thing with clubs. It's hard to find people from that time period, because everybody wants to be home and have dinner with their family. But we have people who are coming, who are working by the time they make it out here. It's 6 o'clock, 6:30, and that's what the program runs. And so your challenge is to find other people who want to give up that time period. And it's hard to find people in the community, because especially if they're working 2 jobs, they're not going to work SAC. So it's a combination. I mean, so it might be a different rate for morning versus afternoon, which we've talked about. And SAC has their own association. We have to work through that. So yeah, I mean, we're all for any ideas that people have and all that stuff, but it's always been in with the confines of it needs to support itself.
Okay, I was gonna be done and then
Yeah,
you said
that's okay.
something.
This is a great discussion to have.
You made a comment about you're all for the ideas that people want. I guess my point is we have people that report to you who are very, very highly compensated who should be coming up with these ideas. That's my entire point is that like, where are the ideas? Where are the alternative plans? Where is the thinking outside the box? My expectation as a board member is we seem to go out of our way to make sure that we are on the high ends scale wise for a lot of the senior level staff that you have. They should be coming up with this.
No, and I just gave you a whole list of things that we did, whether it was the teacher cadet program that we expanded, whether it's pulling people from other programs that we're doing. And again, your stop is we have to, right now, we're not backfilling from the general fund. And again, so if that's the direction you want to go, that's the board's prerogative. But so that's your ultimate challenge is if you're not going to raise the cost of the program with that becomes an issue. Because I mean, we with the finance committee, we go through everybody. I mean, and all of our staff is at near the top for their what do you call it? Their salary ranges. For it doesn't matter whether we just went through this with busing, we just went through with custodians, we just went through, I mean, look at all our bargaining things that we just had. Most of the percentage increases were for those lower people there. So I disagree with kind of the top end, getting most of that because like office and that's 6% raises every year. We had, bus drivers. I mean, just to stay competitive with that, because we set the market when we did that. Then everybody else started climbing up. So then we just bumped them up. Well, like for our bus drivers, they all went up to 25. But that's part of our essential thing. And we get a stipend from the state. They had the categorical for that. So we have the money that's kind of allocated towards that. So again, it's, there's other things that you just have to look at as part of that. And so we grab from anywhere and everywhere and everybody will put it on social media. We talk to people. Do you know, like a high school kid, if you want to do this, we'll find somebody else. We're constantly doing that. It's not for that we're not out there.
So I think I'll try to kind of wrap up what I've heard, and if I speak wrong, somebody please correct me. I think I'd like to see something brought in front of finance,
Mhm.
probably roughly 2 weeks. That would give finance some time to work through
Yeah.
what's presented and then share some of that other information with the other board members prior to our next board meeting. I know you said you want to kind of accelerate the timeline to make things happen a little quicker, but so we can understand, I guess, the financials of where we're at with the SAC program now as it stands. What, if any, we're taking out of our general fund to fund that. Kind of get an idea, quite frankly, for me, what does it cost for, let's say you've got
Yeah.
800 students. What does each student cost me to put in that SAC program?
Absolutely.
I don't know, per hour. I guess you have to go per hour because some students come Monday, Wednesday, Friday, some
Yeah.
come Monday, Tuesday,
Exactly.
Wednesday. Sometimes dad picks up on Friday, whatever it might
Yeah.
be. So is that, Brian, at least I know you guys kind of started this conversation. Is that how we want to steer this, or are you looking for more than that?
Well, I mean, we're clearly not going to solve it tonight. You know,
Right.
you'll probably talk about it for 4 hours and end up in the same place. I
Sure.
guess to Lisa's point, I think a good starting point would be what is the backlog and what would the number look like to pay what we needed to pay to bring on enough staff to wipe out the backlog? Okay, here's the number. And then we reverse engineer the numbers from there. Okay, can we offset some of it with a reasonable rate increase that says to the public, hey, you know, there's so much demand for SAC that we can't adequately staff it at current levels. Here's the new rate. And also the school district is going to eat this much of it to make the numbers work. I think we need to start with knowing what that number is.
Right.
And the good news is I already have a taker for a club at
See,
middle
that's-
school in North.
Yeah.
Keep working the phones.
Yeah.
By the end of the meeting, I expect Ms. Gonzalez to have a job offer and a background
Yeah,
check
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
That would be
Just
great.
one quick question. In the tail end of this, are high school students eligible to be an employee for SAC?
Yeah, so they do, whether it's co-op or things like that. That's why we started the teacher cadet and moving it in this direction so that they could get the background on. they cannot be the lead caregiver. They're the assistant for it because they're just not of age
Now
yet.
they have to go through that academy prior to being an employee to do this?
Yes, that's
All right.
pretty much.
What
we
age is that?
Trying to give them background. We actually go through the class. It's really the high school students really anybody can be kind of the assistant. The hard part is finding the lead person who's an adult who wants
Gotcha.
to do that. Because I think it's like 16 kids right now that are in the program. And we, same thing, we chase them down. It's like, do your paperwork. We need you to do your paperwork. Here you go. Hey, in order to get them through.
Do you have to be 16 or like, is there a minimum?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's like 16.
Have we, I'm sorry to continue this, but have we looked into, we have a lot of independent living facilities. I'm not talking about nursing homes, but adults who are just in a community living situation. I mean, they're eating, not to be, I mean, to be funny, but they're eating dinner at 4. They're ready to go,
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe they want to do some clubs, like
Yeah, oh,
you
yeah.
got people at the VA. I mean, maybe we might have to provide a bus or work something out where there's multiple ones and we're doing a knitting club, we're doing a board game club, maybe, history club where they're looking at World War II, things like that, still pay them. They don't
Yeah.
want to work a lot of hours. They're done with that, but then they get that interaction and it kind of mutually beneficial. So something to think about, reaching out and going in there and pursuing them instead of waiting for them to come to us.
So let's also look at getting some hard numbers from either you, Todd, or
Okay.
Carol out to the board in the next 7 days. Just of where we're at, number of students enrolled by building, where our waiting list is, I assume is by building as well. Do they have a preference? Do they get a 1,
Yeah.
2, 3 choice, or is it, this is where my kid goes, so this is where I
We
want them
try
to
and do it in the building that they're
Okay.
in, but then we do bus yeah.
So if we could get some of those details, I think that would help the board out
Okay.
and,
Yeah.
prior to the finance meeting. And then
Yeah.
obviously we can talk.
No,
dollars
I'll
and cents then.
schedule one, and then we can have
Perfect.
it ready by then. Yes.
That would be great.
I do have one more question outside of the SAC program for Mr. Jankowski.
Yeah.
Are we all done? I know it's the first day of school, but I'm just curious on away for the day. Have you gotten any feedback from any staff, any principals, and
It seems to have gone well so far.
okay,
I think they had 6 total in secondary level today, so that was that.
all right.
So we'll,
Did
that's the
they
happy.
end up buying like phone cages?
we have-
Like
yep.
just so
We have case that they can put it in, so they have that. So far the kids have been great with it. What we saw, the challenge was we had Mike had sent out an email saying, make sure you know what your first hour is, because you can't look at your phone in order to find that
Paper schedules.
from your schedule. Yeah. Same thing with the bus routes. People are like, I don't remember my bus route. That was part of, even at the high school, they couldn't remember what bus that they came in on. So far the kids have been very good with it.
Great.
Do you have anything else as part of your update? I know. we
No,
got
no,
way
no,
sidetracked there.
yeah,
I didn't know if
yes.
there's anything else.
That's all.
It was, but I appreciate the discussion. I appreciate everybody being honest, because if we can't be honest with each other up here, who can we be honest with? So thanks for that. So if there is nothing further, I will move on to item E of our hearing of the public. Those who wish to address the board may complete a brief request stating their name, address, and the subject of their comments. Remarks about specific employees should be directed to them personally and not included in the public forum. Administration will follow up with concerns within 48 hours of the board meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. I have one blue sheet here, so if someone else wished to address the board besides this person, make sure you see Tim over there at the desk here in the next 30 seconds so we can hear from you. I have Christina R.
Todd has it.
Thank you. All right. I'm happy to see all the work to many of your schools. I didn't hear exactly what school had the new playground, but that's exciting. But I was hoping to hear Naldrit amongst those updates. My child started kindergarten, and Monday was the meet your teacher night at Naldrit. And while I was there, we toured the grounds, and my husband and I have concerns as parents whose child is in the CI program. As I understand, at Naldret, there was a need to add a third CI class, meaning more kids with disabilities are in your district. Adding a third class kept the numbers down per class size, which is I'm a fan of. Smaller class sizes mean more attention to detail that these kids need. Our teacher and para are phenomenal. Our concerns lie with the school grounds. I truly would like to advocate for a fenced play structure. I've been told by other parents and staff of the school that a perimeter is placed around the playground, as well as putting fluorescent vests on the special needs students so they are easily visible. To me as a parent, if a perimeter is needed, then I argue that a fence is also needed. It concerns my husband and I that there is a residential subdivision with a paved pathway directly to the doors of the school. And to me, with a child who has no sense of personal safety, that paved pathway with no fence or blockade entices my daughter to wander. So for safety reasons, I think a fence would alleviate unneeded stresses for parents and staff alike. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask, kind of step out of my own protocol that I just read out here for the board and ask Superintendent Jankowski to respond to that, because I'm sure you're not the only parent from Naldred that has that concern.
No, and then and this is, I didn't put it in there. Naldred, Ashley, and South are going to be the next kind of like phase of construction. So we already had the conversation about when typically, like for construction, we put in construction fencing to do something a little bit more permanent in order to do that, because already there's going to be an addition there. So we need to kind of like keep that secluded. So while we're doing that, let's do something that's more, rather than your temporary fence, let's do something that we can do that we can keep up there that will kind of serve that purpose. And then once all that construction's set, then we would have something more. Yeah, well, we basically, our submission for everything to go out to bid is September, no, it's architect page turn, which is the last thing before you go to bid, is September 15th. So then that'll start that process kind of going forward. So that'll be, but even that, we can kind of stage the fence like even before that. So we have a meeting coming up on Monday that we'll kind of like talk about, because now we're turning our attention from what happened over the summer to now we're getting ready for the next thing. And so that's already had some discussions, already looking at that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, I will move on the agenda to communications.
No communications.
Are you talked out? I will move on to the consent agenda. And today's consent agenda will include the approval of the minutes from the regular and special meeting of June 25th of 2025, the financial report, and the bills payable for June through July of 2025. I would entertain a motion at this time to approve the consent agenda, including those three items.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
I'll make that second.
Yes. I do have a question about our engagement with Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Is that ongoing for this school year? Is that ended?
No, it winds down over this year and next year. Yes.
What is our monthly commitment or weekly commitment from Mr. Joseph in terms of him being on site and being involved?
This year it'll be significantly less. It's a lot of it is based off of, there's two parts of it. So they'll be on site. So it was 1 week during every month, that now it'll not be more than 3 days a month in any given month, and probably not every month. And then there's also some online that if our instructional coaches or our teachers want to reach out, then we also set a rate for that as well. We have not kind of set that, like the amount of,
Does he bill us hourly for his time? Is it
yeah, basically. Yeah.
weekly? Okay.
Yeah.
So I would expect his bill is going to drop from the June bill
Oh, absolutely.
to something substantially less.
Yeah.
I assume Mr. Joseph is a consultant. What kind of consultant is he?
He's with the competency-based education and curriculum and all of that. So we received about 1.3 million in grants in order to kind of fund that. So again, this is not it's categorical funding that comes out of a grant. And so that's what it's there for. So that's kind of what it's targeted. So he's within that, and as that winds down, So, and that was the whole thing. It's always 5 years, and then our people have to kind of be on their own.
Anyone else? Comments, questions, concerns about the three items we're voting on? Hearing none, Mr. Richards, if you call the roll?
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Mr. Richards is yes. Mr. Green,
Yes. Motion carries. All right, we're going to continue our discussion on consent agenda items. Mr. Powers requested that the personnel report be removed from the consent agenda, and that was followed up by Mrs. Berkmeyer's request that we talk a little bit about exit interviews. So all of you have the financial report in your board packet, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Powers so we can have a discussion about it.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to discuss it separately is just I was reading through it and it just really jumped out at me that we had by my count 11 teacher resignations over the summer. Not retirements, not moving from this place to like just resignations. And this is my first summer as a board member. I don't know if that's a normal number. I feel like it's not. Even if it is a normal number, I don't want that to be a normal number. I was glad to see all the new hires on the list, and we don't seem to have any trouble hiring new teachers as needed, but we also have to be able to keep the ones that we have. And, I'm sure there's some circumstances in there where, a teacher wanted to teach something very specific and there was a better opportunity somewhere else, or their career path is they want to be a principal and an assistant principal position opened up somewhere else that we can provide. But, that makes sense. I don't think that's all of them. And so I guess I'm concerned at the number of teachers that resigned. I'd like to know why. I'd like to know, like, do we like kind of take pause when this stuff happens and kind of, look internally at, our culture, our workplace environment. What are we doing to make sure that we're taking care of those that are here already? I was going to ask a pretty basic question about exit interviews, but something tells me anything I would ask is going to be more than covered at the other end of the table, and then some. In the rare circumstance that Ms. Berkmeyer doesn't cover what I wanted to know about exit interviews, I'll circle back to it. But that's my concern, is just that seeing that 11 teachers resign this summer.
So why don't we talk a little bit about that, Superintendent Jankowski?
Wait, yeah, and you have turnover every year. You're getting more and more, especially now. I can tell you, we had 3 teachers that left for administrative positions. We had 1 that left for childcare reasons. We had, so those are some, they'll meet with their principal and be like, hey, here's the thing. This is where we're kind of moving on and stuff. You are in a time used to be, you had a salary schedule and you're locked in and that's it. But now especially if you're math, science, special education, definitely that you will see a lot of movement in those areas because they're super critical shortage areas. For example, we had a teacher we hired, 2 years ago from a district and was in our district for 6 weeks. Basically, we had given the career steps because they were in a previous district. You cannot move up a step in the district that you're in. Okay. Because once you're on the salary scale, you're on the salary scale. Left there, left us in 6 weeks, went to another district that was closer to her house in probably 4 weeks later, and then went back to her original district like a few weeks after that. So went through basically 4 districts and all that and doubled her salary, more than doubled her salary. So there's a lot of that where you have people that are moving. There's also, we're expecting people, we have coaching. That they're working with people and we want people to kind of change what they're doing and work focus on all kids and focus on growth. And that's part of it too. A lot of them, we do exit surveys. They actually get an exit survey. They give us the response. We look at those and it asks like all the different questions and they can respond anonymously. And so we do get that information. Do we meet with them individually? No. Patrick and I have had this conversation that you get the anonymous, you tend to get more out of on those, but it's still not always, not, does everybody respond? No. And can you make them? No.
So there's no, from an administration standpoint, you have no concern about like whether it's burnout, whether it's frustration, whether it's culture, like there's nothing underlying that's causing people at an abnormal rate to want to leave here when they otherwise would really have no reason to leave here.
We've had, well, this year was, we basically 39 positions. Last year was 37. The year before it was in the 20s, but that's out of 300 some. And we knew this is something I shared even with the board back then. We have a very senior staff. Okay. The other part of it is too, is there was a buyout that was done before I got here. So your first 3 years, you're not going to see a lot of people leave, because if you're going to leave and retire or do anything, you're going to take the buyout. Now, yeah, it's like any place. So they have issues with, it could be, I mean, we know we've had some share that on other issues, they didn't get along with either somebody in their department, they didn't get along with something in that, or they have an opportunity someplace else. There's various reasons for everybody. But we've also had, I mean, I can share with you, it's like, oh, a lot of people are like, we had one, it was very glowing. I mean, I don't want to mention anybody by name, but he got an administrative position. Phil Latona and I had mentored him from like day one. And he's like, this is a good opportunity. I got that. And I'll tell you, he's already left that district and gone to another one in the 5 weeks since that happened. We had another one that was like, no, this is great. I like what's here, but I live closer over there. So, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons. And they tell us typically, if either in their resignation letter or in the exit surveys that we do.
So I just want to push back on that a little bit. I went back and pulled up every personnel report since January, and kind of going through, just taking counts. So from, like you said, I think we had 39 new hires to the ABEA. So whether that's teachers, counselors, this fall. Well, for this school year, I should say. And then, so I had asked you, how many new sections, like new teaching positions did we need? You said about 10.
Mhm.
So, that drops us, we had 39 new hires, that drops us down to like, 10 of those are because we're growing, we need more, drops us down to 29. 12 of those would be replacing people that retired. So counting back. 2 teachers were non-renewed last year, and so obviously got to replace those. 2 people were on like a FMLA leave and then resigned, so they weren't totally with us at the moment, but they've officially resigned. We obviously gave one person a principal job within our district, and we've made some academic coaches, but this still leaves us easily with 9 people, 9 hires. And what caught me was I saw on Facebook, Romeo being a similar size district, we had to hire 39 new teachers this year. Romeo put a picture up of all their new hire teachers of 13. Now, 10 of ours are for new sections because we're growing, so that's great. But so we're left with 29 new hires to Romeo's 13 of a similar size district. And while, yes, some people might leave for, personally positive reasons, they could do that at Romeo. And some people are going to job hop for more pay because we can't bump them on the salary scale as much as we might want to, or this or that. But that's happening everywhere to every district. So we're all in the same boat. And yet we have to hire 29 people and to their 13. So, and to that point, with the resignations, we had 11 or 12 this summer, and 7 of them were from one building. And I don't think anybody up here needs me to elaborate even more about my feelings about that. I think it's a problem that needs to be rectified, and I've been yelling about it, but here we are. So, I mean, and honestly, I know of more that may come from that same building. So it's it's not ending, and it's, we're still in the air. We might get some that leave in the next week or so. So it's like, when are we going to do something about that? I know a lot of people on the board, like we've said things about asking about exit interviews, and it's not, and you're right, like we can't force people to do anything. And I get it, like not everybody is leaving for a negative reason or that, but I also, most people, when they're in the midst of their career, aren't going to burn the place down on their way out the door. But I do think it might be interesting for the board, a committee of the board, to set up maybe a survey or something that only comes to the board. Like that way I feel like we would get maybe some honest opinions or some honest feedback. And yeah, you gotta take it with a grain of salt. Like people leave for all different reasons, some people are going to burn the place down on their way out. But I think it would just be good feedback for us as a board to hear. So I'd like us to maybe consider coming up with some sort of exit survey, and that way to, whether it's an email, maybe it goes to the president, or I don't know, something that comes directly to us that gives us feedback about the district as a whole as to why people are leaving. I feel like you could say this about any career environment, but like even mine in healthcare, it's like everyone says it's a small world. It's a small world in a sense, in education too. So people, like you said, people aren't always going to be honest, or they're not always willing to say everything they want to say because they need to leave, have another job. They don't want things that they said getting out there. But perhaps, my thought is maybe to just elected board members, as opposed to those that, run the districts and are the ones that they need to hire them, maybe people would be a little bit more honest. So that's something I would like us to consider, setting up from the board's end. I'm open to however the president wants to maybe think about that, or if that's the way we go.
Yeah, can I respond to that then?
Sure.
I mean, and again, and I understand. I mean, I've had this conversation with the narrative and all that. So we got down to 9. We know 3 took administrative positions.
Really like you to stop using the word narrative when you talk to people,
What?
not just myself, but other staff members. It's incredibly demeaning and inappropriate.
Okay,
and-
well, I apologize for that. But by the same token, we're asked you hired me to lead the district and to do all of that. And then one of the things that we talked about when I met with every board member was, we're going to do this, we're going to share that. And then now it seems like the board wants to.
It has nothing to do with that. We've been telling you, people have been telling you, people tell you when you meet in that exact building and they meet with you and you don't get back with them about things that they talk to you about. They tell you about the toxic environment in a specific building. You've heard it from me, you've heard it from other board members. You just don't want to hear it.
I disagree, absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm just putting it
Ms.
out there.
Berkmeyer, I appreciate your input. Could you please let the superintendent finish his response before interjecting? So allow him a chance to fully explain the questions.
Sure.
No, because it's the same thing with, I mean, you had surveys that came out that were shared directly and they were done behind that. And again, those were not, we had just as many teachers that came up and said, that was BS. That was, they also, the same thing, the administrators met with the people in their wings and they worked on that. And so there's a lot of complicated things that are part of that. And if you look at even those 9, and you had people who left for administrative positions, people that we helped mentor for that. You had somebody leave for a child care issue who wrote a glowing letter about, this was great, I really like where you're headed, and things like that as a
She
district.
worked with you in a previous district
Let-
and had a poor experience here, and in terms of her performance. So, I mean, I would be
disagree with you.
limited in your ability to claim that as a success.
Ms.
if you
Berkmeyer, I
ultimately
will
came
ask
and
you,
left.
please allow the superintendent to finish his response before interjecting. I'd like to hear what he has to say and then you can respond.
So again, you're down to 5 or 6, let's say, out of 300 some. So that's 2%.
You still, at the end of the day, have 29 people who chose to walk away from this district compared to a similar sized district that had 13. Every school district has issues. Every school district has people that leave for good reasons, for bad reasons, because they do or they don't get along with people. But ours is over double of a similar size district. I'll just leave the board with that.
I'd like to talk about a couple of things too. Mr. Powers mentioned, and Ms. Burkmeyer both mentioned the exit interview piece of it. I think for me, we've talked about the survey piece, and I'd like to try and do surveys at the beginning of the school year, the middle of the school year, and the end of the school year. I'd rather try and, figure out if, to Mr. Powers' point, if people are leaving a building or the district, I'd like to try and see that prior to try and save them from leaving the district as well. So, and I know that some of the surveys were done by, different, different levels or different, the ABA did their surveys, but I'd like to survey the entire school district. If you get paid on on the payroll of the anchor-based school district, I want to survey them so we can look at the entire data. We can also compare it this year versus last year. And we can also should be able to compare it, building by building as well. I don't think that it would cost a lot of money to do the survey, whether we do it anonymous. To Ms. Burkmeyer's point, maybe the results go back to, Mr. Green first and he can dive into the data. But, I don't expect it to be long, but, 4 or 5 quick bullet points. A lot of businesses nowadays, they take a lot of surveys, customer survey, customer experience surveys, very seriously. And I think that, to try and figure out, what's fixed or I'm sorry, what's broken needs to be fixed, what's going well. I would like to at least try to, look into doing some type of survey,
Yeah,
district-wide,
and I do not have a problem. We do many surveys. There's always this thing, and I know this goes back to like predates me on, well, people don't want to say because it's retaliation. I challenge anybody. When have I ever, or anybody, retaliated about anything that's been on a survey?
Is there something else you want to add, Ms. Burkmeyer?
I have more, not on this specific, but I have more on the personnel report.
Okay. So in your mind, Ms. Burkmeyer, how do you see the survey playing out? You want it sent, it sounds like we have 2 different kind of opinions now. Mr. Richards kind of said he prefers something sent out multiple times a year to the staff. Is that something we want to do? And then we want to take a look at surveying our exiting employees, because I agree. In my world, I always do exit interviews with people that are somewhere in my chain. If they don't ultimately report to me, if they do, then my boss does them. So I agree with the exit interview strategy. I'll tell you, just maybe 60% of the people will actually participate. However, if you schedule it on their last day of work, technically you're still my employee. And I do operate in a union environment sometimes. So it's today's your last day. I'm paying you. This is going to be one of your last day tasks, is to have a video chat with me and tell me how things are going in your world. So I guess I'm asking both of you guys for a little bit more clarity. And do we need to form a separate committee to do this? Or do you feel like there is somewhere that this can be picked up? But I also don't completely support cutting the superintendent out of that conversation. But I understand why you feel like you might get more honest answers if they weren't going to him. So maybe this is something for a different agenda item, a different meeting. But I want to dig through this and figure out if this is the direction we want to go. I don't disagree. I'm big on surveys. And again, even if half your employees return them, 60% return them on a regular basis, I'm okay with investing that money into 60%. So, Ms. Burkmeyer, how do you want to move forward? How do you guys want to move this forward? I don't think we have a committee that it really fits into, except maybe policy.
I mean, like I said, I'm open. I don't have to be on the committee. Maybe it's better than I'm not, but I just would like to see, let's have a committee of just the board members maybe meet, whichever one you see fit, or make a new one if you need to. And, decide, just maybe a couple questions of the most important thing. To Dennis's point, maybe it's something we ask of people on their last, known scheduled day, like if someone's resigning or it has to come in and turn in keys or something to that extent. But it's something we make a habit of administering. You know, just a couple bulleted pointed items about, you know, why you left and what, you know, what are your feeling, you know, was there something that Anchor Bay was lacking that, you know, led to you wanting to leave? Or, you know, was it just timing, you know, just to kind of get to the root of those things. But, you know, a committee could kind of maybe hammer that out a little more specifically and,
I think I would honestly support a committee that was formed. And I know it'd be kind of unusual, but a bit of a revolving committee. That it wasn't the same three board members meeting for every survey, that, you know, the oldest person who's been on or who already has done one or two or whatever we come up with as, and this probably will be policy, right? To create a committee, but, or I can create one. So, but my point is that I want everybody to have the opportunity to participate in, you know, in these surveys. And it's obviously something, you know, we need to work out, with the superintendent. How do we give that feedback? How do we summarize it? I probably am not a huge proponent of meeting without our superintendent, but I understand the value that that would bring. If people felt like they could be honest with us and maybe didn't feel like they could be honest with Superintendent Jankowski. How does any other, I know we're getting way off of left field here.
I appreciate Dennis's idea of beginning, middle, end. We talk about the growth, you know, so not everything's going to be perfect, but if we can show growth throughout the year and then next year, we have the same metrics to test it against. I don't think we can look at another district, especially not just one, when there are so many here and everybody has different variables, different demographics, things like that. And so I think we need to just look at ourselves and be able to measure against ourselves moving forward. And hopefully each survey, we are better than we were before.
And certainly we could do them now that we're on trimesters. We could do one survey per, you know, right at the beginning of the year and then at the end of the year and find somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, same survey though.
Mr. Vinatelli?
Just a clarifying question for the superintendent. I think Ms. Burkhardt mentioned we hired about 35 new teachers.
Yeah.
Versus we lost, I believe, 11. If there's a loss of 11 and a new hire of around 35, what's the reason for all the new hires?
No, we had some people, Lisa kind of walked through it. So some moved to other positions, some retired, so that's the thing. But like the EI position at the middle school, that's a new position. So there was 10 that were kind of like didn't exist. Like we had to expand Young 5. We had a kindergarten section pop. So those kind of come in and then you have the other parts.
Some people left, some people moved up or horizontal, and then new people were hired on as the district kind of expands its facilities. Is that?
Well,
not-
yeah, that, and then
Okay.
we had one teacher become an Alders principal.
it was, yeah, there were 12 retirements that had to be replaced.
Mhm.
Like I said, 10 new positions that we just didn't have before.
Mhm.
2 teachers we non-renewed, so obviously you have to replace them as well. 2 people were on like FMLA leave and then chose not to come back again, like when it was done. 1 teacher became a principal for us. We had 3 teachers that became coaches, instructional coaches. And basically the rest would have been, you know, resignations of, you know, just
Okay.
people chose. to
Yeah, I
leave
think
for-
it's a valid thing to look into. If there is some concern as to why they're dissatisfied with their current position, as to why they'd want to move around or move up, I think that might be worth looking into. But and just this is just my opinion from what I'm hearing. A couple retires because we have an aging school staff population, and a couple lateral shifts, and a couple of people turning over. That doesn't seem that alarming to me. I think that's just kind of what happens as the district expands. You need to hire more people. So just that number by itself. But I think, you know, if there's something to look into, we should look into it and see if there's a reason why there's so much change. But I would say, you know, as I said, just that number by itself, the 35 new teachers, that doesn't seem too alarming to me. I think the circumstances warrant that increase in staff.
Anybody else? Mr. Jankowski, anything you want to add at this point?
No, no.
I think so. My commitment to the board is, I think a good starting point for me is to reach out to MASB and find out if these types of surveys exist in other districts, how they're being administered, what type of questions are on them, and bring that information back to you guys at the next board meeting. So that is on my to-do list. So if there's no other questions, we actually do not have a motion on the table. So I would entertain it at this time, a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
I had further questions on the personnel report, but I can wait for a motion.
All right, well, let's see if we've got a motion in a second before, and then I'll get back over to you.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Manatelli, supported by Mr. Powers. Ms. Birkmeyer.
And how does the personnel report, like, I know there's staff personnel listed on there sometimes, like all the new, like renewed coaches are listed, with like a new contract
Mhm.
and they're listed as staff. But obviously we don't always list like every potential sub,
No.
on the, so what qualifies them like to get on the report or not? Like,
Basically, if they're usually it's if they're in an extended position and that like coaching, so they have a coaching contract, so they're in for that. So that's kind of where it's at. It's kind of tied to a contract. There are other ancillary positions where it could be like a long-term sub or something like that. That wouldn't be on there because it's not, that's just not, we have long-term subs for various reasons and all of that. And oftentimes, those positions come and go kind of as needed. So if it's something that's kind of like, they're coaching, like, because even that, so like all of our coaching positions go on because they do that, but then you have internal coaches, if there are staff that aren't edgy staff, and if they're not our staff, then they go through edgy staff. And so that's the difference on those, but we put all coaches on there because of that. But otherwise, most of the edgy staff people, they don't have kind of an alignment to something else, and typically we won't put them on there unless they're because same thing, if you have a sub, let's just say you even have a teaching position that's a sub that we hire directly, because if you are in the pension system, you can't be edu staff because you're in the pension system and they want to track how much you're being paid by a district. So there's different wrinkles depending on how they're being funded, what their status is and all that. So then we hire those people directly.
So I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but we have subs that are on our payroll then.
Yes, because if
Okay.
you worked, so if we have like a teacher,
Because of the retirement.
if they're retired, then they come in, then they're not edu staff. And it actually saves us a little bit because they're getting the rate we're not paying the edu staff. Like,
How can they be a direct employee of ours? And that's okay with the retirement system?
it's actually, you have to do it because the retirement system wants to make sure that they're tracking their thing because
They're offsetting their retirement.
well, it really depends on how much they're making and all that stuff.
Okay,
So it's
okay.
a little complicated, but but basically they want to make sure, especially if they retire and they come back within that first year, there's the $15,000. It's basically
Right, it's
the
capped.
exceptions. The football coach cap is what they put in there. You could retire, come back,
Okay,
be a football coach, and you can't exceed $15,000. But in order for the state to track it, we have to pay them directly so that they can make sure that they're not over exceeding that $15,000. So they can't go.
right, I know there's a markup on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Ms. Birkmeyer, I'm sorry.
so the reason I'm asking, like in the last like week or 2 weeks, I was contacted. We had 2 at-risk tutors that were let go that were employed through EduStaff, but they weren't on the list. So but last school year they worked at a building and regularly, I mean, they came in every day. And so I was trying to figure out why they wouldn't be on the list as having been let go. And then I guess I'm asking, like, are we letting at-risk tutors go?
Well, we're not letting them go. Edu staff would be the one that lets them
Right.
go, depending on
But
Usually what we try and do like with at-risk tutors and so on is we're trying to get people who are certified if as much as possible. So we typically, we might have somebody who's non-certified because we're trying to get people who could ultimately be teachers. Especially now, we're trying to get people that can be grow your own. Because if we can bring them in as, like, we at one of the elementaries, we had somebody who came in that way, then if they can qualify for the $10,000 from the state, get their certificate, then they become our own teacher and we're growing our own. So that is our preference. It's the same thing kind of like with the kindergarten last year we might put a temporary sub in there from EduStaff, but we're always looking to get certified people if we can. So if we can replace that. Now, depending on the position, it also depends on the funding source for that. So if it comes in, if it's at-risk money, which we know at-risk funding because of Medicaid is going to be cut, already it's going to be cut, then the Medicaid qualifications have kind of changed as well. So if we don't see that, that's going to be like, we're expecting there's probably at least a 15% cut to our at-risk funding. So then, especially now, we don't have a state budget, we don't have anything. We're just trying to keep everything kind of.
So why did we only lose at-risk tutors from one building?
That I don't know. I'd have to look into it.
Because my concern is, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but we had 2 at-risk tutors from one building who happened to be 2 people that attended a board meeting regarding the principal, and some of which spoke regarding the principal issues we had last spring, who were let go like a week and a half ago. And now they're being replaced by a para in the building. You know, and these are people that have stepped up. One, you know, as she spoke at our meeting, she subbed for a classroom for us when we couldn't find subs for that one classroom. And they're let go like a week before the school year starting with, you know, now all the jobs are filled. They want to work for us. They want to be in the building. They want to help. We gave them no heads up that we were, you know, that they were potentially going to be let go or that we weren't going to need them. And a week before school starts, they were called and told they no longer have a job. It just really doesn't sit well with me. And so if we kind of knew like we were going to bring somebody else on board that maybe because they're certified, and that can make sense, but like that we never gave anybody heads up. Like I just feel like that's rude. Um, and then so you know, these are involved parents. They try to ask about, you know, becoming a sub, which as we're talking about filling positions, we obviously need SAC, whatever. And they were told by our HR that they won't get to that for a few weeks. To me, that's unacceptable as well. So I'm like, what exactly is going on in this situation? I mean, it really comes off poorly, and maybe it's coincidence, but that the only people that I'm aware of that were let go were 2 people that sat in a board meeting here and spoke up for their school. And now they're being let go. And now they're also kind of being in an untimely time as well, where they can't just pick up or try and apply for another job. And then when they're trying to want to sub, they're being told, you know, well, maybe in a few weeks, I'm not going to get to that for a while. Like they feel written off. And I just feel like this is a horrible way to display anything, you know, to treat parents, let alone parents that are very involved in our buildings and in our district. So I'm just trying to understand what happened here, because I expected to see their names on the EduStaff report, and then I didn't. So I was not understanding why, or I'm sorry, not on the EduStaff report, but on the personnel.
Yeah,
report.
personnel.
I'm trying to understand why, like, it doesn't, I don't know.
No, I can tell you, as for communication, that they are not our employees, it's EduStaff. So then the only ones that we actually recommend are the coaches for that. And then if it's subbing, we hold subbing meetings. You have to wait until there's like a sub meeting unless you're in there as a sub. We actually host those here, and we try and do those on a regular basis in order to get more people into the sub pool. Is it our first priority when we're trying to staff up the building? No, it's not. In the first few weeks, and I don't know, it could have been if parapros moved in there, it could have been there was a parapro position, and so how that bumps out. And then based on our staffing, it could have been based off of if they're at risk and
It's a para sub
okay.
that they were trying to be, but
No, I mean, we always have pair subs that they can do it. And I mean, I mean, I would have to check with Laura, but I don't think we've ever turned anybody away for that. So
But with edu staff, we're able to part ways with someone if we wanted to, right? We could.
technically they are not our employee. We do not.
No, I
yeah.
understand. I understand that piece,
Yeah.
but we could say, you know,
we don't need the job.
right, right. Mr. Green
Yeah.
isn't really working out in this environment. Can you send me, you know, Mr. Powers and
So what generally happens, let's just talk about staffing in general. I mean, teaching staff is different than you have your support staff and ancillary staff. So what happens is as everything kind of comes into like focus based off of sections and things like that, then typically you have like, let's take busing, for example. They will have a bid meeting for their positions and then that who gets what position. Every one of our support staffs kind of has that as it goes through and it kind of shakes out. Depending on what we have. And again, this goes back to what do we anticipate? Where are we at on the different positions? What do we need? How are we kind of handling that? You know, some buildings are Title I, they're getting title funding. So based off of the title funding, they will have more staff or something like that. And then that all filters down and generally then we recommend to people like, hey, put in the sub if you have enough credit hours that you can do that, or you can be a para sub if that's needed, or SAC if you want SAC. I mean, all of that. So, and it really depends on their background and things like that.
Districts absolutely can talk to edu staff and say, I don't want this
Yeah, you
person
can-
back in my
yeah.
district.
Yeah, if you could look into this, because it is kind of concerning to me too, to Ms. Berkmeyer's point, you know, we did have, you know, staff come here and talk about the building, the issues at the building, and I'm hoping that it's not some type of retaliation that went on, but if you could just maybe put something together.
And yeah, and I can tell you
Yeah.
absolutely not. There was nothing that
Yeah, I would agree, Mr. Richards. So whatever digging in you could do, superintendent, would be great.
Mhm.
Share that information back out to the board. Any other comments, questions, or concerns concerning the personnel report? I believe we actually have our new Lighthouse Elementary principal somewhere out there.
yes.
Yeah, we do have a motion on the floor. I guess I'll have to introduce you. Whether or not we
Yeah.
approve you, we'll know
Yes.
whether you're the new principal. So
And he is not edu staff.
he is not a staff?
Yeah.
Is he a Spartan?
No.
Okay. All right.
No,
You know,
he's a tar. He's a tar.
career dissipation light. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. If I have no more comments, questions, or concerns, could you please call the roll on the personnel report? And then I will introduce, hopefully, our new lighthouse.
Sure. Motion was Mr.
Principal.
Vinatelli, correct?
Yes,
Second?
that's correct.
Okay. Mr. Vinatelli,
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer. Mr. Richards is a yes. Ms. Knox
Yes.
and Mr. Green.
Yes. Okay, so we do have our new lighthouse principal, oddly enough, in the audience, and we just approved to hire him. Actually, I'm going to call you out and have you step up to the podium and introduce yourself to the board. And tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome aboard.
I am a graduate of Anchor Bay, so I'm not Spartan. Bronco, with a little bit of Central Michigan in there and a Georgia Southern too. But I am a graduate of Anchor Bay. I've been a principal, this is going on year 8. I jumped at the chance to be able to come back to the district that I grew up in. It has a high set of standards. I know the community, I'm part of the community, which was even more exciting. My kids are in the district. So I was excited to be able to get back, to really be able to get back. So many times as an educator, you work in districts other than where your family's at and things. So it's really cool to be part of, impact where your family's at. So I appreciate you guys very much. We had our first day today. It was amazing. Be able to see the staff and the kids. The building looks beautiful. I think I did a pretty good job with this dismissal today. But we had a couple of things to work out, but it was amazing to see the kids. They're all excited to be back. They're ready to start the school year and they love their teachers. So, and they like me a little.
So I'll call your attention out of the back of your building, if you outlook past the bus garage. You might be able to see Mr. Titi back there directing traffic each morning, our middle school north principal. So he does a good job at that. So if you're ever struggling with traffic flow and keeping things moving, he's sometimes in yellow. If it's raining, I've seen him in a Santa suit. So very good. Welcome aboard.
Sounds like Mr. Titi has some competition during that.
It does.
Yeah,
It does.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good to meet you. Okay, so we're going to move on, I believe, to new business. Yes, you're like pointing like you're,
Oh, no,
thing at
my
the-
keyboard died, so I have to scroll.
I see.
Yeah.
All right, the first item up, number 1, is our elementary and secondary handbooks. The elementary and secondary handbooks have been updated to reflect the district cell phone policy and the transition to trimesters. In secondary, grade weighting has also been revised. Final exams will no longer carry separate weight outside of the trimester grade. Instead, all assessments will be included in the trimester grade as determined by the teacher. Outdated language was removed to align with current procedures. At the middle school level, it is now specified that bus suspensions count towards demerits for reward trips. At South, the penalty for major infractions has increased from 4 demerits to 6. So the recommended action is that the Board of Education approve the changes to the elementary and secondary handbooks for the 2025-2026 school year. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I will make the motion.
I will second.
Motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Vendatelli. Comments, questions, or concerns?
I have a couple things to ask or point out. One, I think there's a few more like, I don't want to say grammatical, but wording errors where I caught quarters instead of trimesters. So probably want to look through that again. But particularly, I had a question, like I know the code of conduct had been updated in a while, until now. So, for example, I think it was on the code of conduct, number 15, talked about like electronic communication devices and laser pointers. And it says like the high school, they should use good judgment in hallways, passing time, cafeteria. I'm sorry, it's not working. I may be confusing code of conduct with the high school handbook. So, but anyway, it says how they should use good judgment using these devices during hallways, passing time, cafeteria, which kind of implies that they can use them, which goes against our away for the day policy. So probably just need to look at that. And either kind of cross some of those items out because we're not using them already in the cafeteria and items. So it kind of just makes a discrepancy. And
Yeah,
then,
if I can just
Yeah.
quickly. That, yeah, the whole thing with electronic communication, we're like, okay, now we're going one-to-one though devices like
Right.
that they can have. So that's why we're like, well, we have it explicit for like cell phones and things like that, but and who knows, I mean, what else could possibly come
Sure.
up that would, so that's why we kind of, that was that thought process there.
yeah. And then in the code of conduct, I know we had some discussions when the policy committee met before, like when it refers to the in-school suspension. Is that set up and firmed up, like how that's gonna?
Yeah, so we have locations, we have people to kind of have that. And I think North is the only one that I don't know if they're totally say yet, because they're still trying to get everything in place with the realignment and all of that. But it's in there for right now. We're only going to do it for the cell phones to kind of do that, and then it's explicit in there with that, and then we'd expand it.
So who's gonna be running that?
So we have, depending on the building, it's so I think at South that he's going to have one of his, it's like either the RSC or you know, restorative person. And then at the high school, we were trying to have, once we kind of see that because we have a slew of, now we added hall monitors. And so maybe have them staff that and maybe do it on a rotational basis, depending on kind of how the demand kind of works for that. Like how many students do we have under that?
It's a good term. It's a demand.
And then on the code of conduct, like on the eligibility, for like the after school activities. So I think it was in there, for athletics eligibility, is that the athletic director who's monitoring that, like that they're maintaining eligibility?
Yeah, that they go through, they do the weekly, but we're also coaches. We want coaches to do that as well because they're the first contact, and and then otherwise it's done. Really, whoever's sponsoring the event with the kid, we have a system to kind of track that behind and provide that to them. You can set up groups in Power School and so on. It'll track some of that. But then ultimately, it's either the AD or depending on the event, whoever's running it. So
So they're a club sponsor? Because I mean, the eligibility applies to like
Yeah.
really doing anything outside of class, right? Like, so
It-
club participation, and is that?
right now,
That's how I interpret it.
it's been if they have an event of some sort. The only one is if they get a grade for it. So like band concerts, part of the grades, they do not. That's the exception. But if they're doing something like a trip or something like that, then they're subject to it. Just the club meetings, because we want them, like even I'll tell you, like athletics, it's like some coaches set up, hey, this is a study table. I'm going to keep you on there. So you're still going to meet, you can still practice. It's just the actual competition. It's just the actual, if they're doing something like, hey, if there's a Cedar Point trip, that would go towards it. If, let's say JRTC, I mean, they have their own system of sorts, but this kind of is kind of built on that as well.
So it sounds like for the eligibility, whether it's athletics or just a school event, it's up to that sponsor, like that staff member sponsor or coach, to make sure that the
We
students.
keep a master eligibility list, but
Okay.
then they're also known, and then it'll also be kind of baked into their
Okay.
interim, because it'll say, hey, if you're below this GPA, if you're below this citizenship and all that stuff, then you are basically ineligible, or you need to go on a plan. Then it's up to the kid to develop the plan. That list will go to each of them. I mean, they've done this in kind of to some extent getting prepared for this because it's been 2 years. So
Okay. And then my other question in the high school handbook, under citizenship, this is maybe grasping at straws a little bit, but I kind of found it kind of silly that on our citizenship, to get an outstanding or satisfactory citizenship, there was the term, and like attitude is always positive. And I just felt like, I mean, what person honestly ever is positive 100% of the time? That it just seems kind of like a silly thing to have. I would personally like to just maybe honestly, anything about the attitude. There's something about attitude always positive, sometimes negative, or, and depending on which rating you get, I'd like to see that almost striked out, because you can have good citizenship and still be crabby. I mean, frankly, I mean, it just sounds silly to
Yeah.
me to say you always have to be positive or you're going to get an N in citizenship. I mean, everyone has a bad day. Like, and we're trying, we're giving, it just comes across very silly to me. And then my last piece is just that, and kind of going through the other handbooks, it seems like we have in the code of conduct, like, we have our bullying policy, for example, laid out, and it's pretty, it goes through legal and everything else. But then when you get into like the high school handbook or the North or the South handbook, they kind of like go into their own definitions. And I feel like it just opens a gray area of just, like, if anything, if they're going to reiterate it, it should probably just be copy pasted what our actual policy is, instead of giving their own definitions of different forms and things like that. That's just a nitpicky thing of mine, but I just feel like it's opening up
Mhm.
like a problem. So or just leave it out, because in my opinion, the handbooks and the code of conduct basically go together. So let it be said here, and then things that are more specific just to your building, maybe how you deal with those issues can be put in your own handbook for each principal, but that's just my personal opinion.
Are you comfortable with approving the handbooks as they sit? Or do we want to try to put some
Well, I think we.
modifications in there?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah,
Because if we don't have them, right?
yeah. Mars full day. Yes. Yeah.
So,
We approve them with, I mean, if everyone agrees, but can we approve them with those recommendations to change?
sure, then they'd have to come back in front of us next meeting for a quick
Yeah,
approval,
we
right?
can- Yeah, if you
That
can
way
do
you
that
can read, you
next
could read the
then we'll
language that it's been
revise them.
changed to and say, yeah, I'm good with this, or I'm not good with this.
Yeah.
Especially with policy, you guys can all meet before that, and review those. So, you're welcome. But I think that'd be a great idea. I think we want to approve what we've got so we can move forward, but I think we should have policy get together and make sure that you guys are good. The one question I do have is, when I was looking at the cell phone policy, uh, it doesn't appear at any point, aside from out of school suspension, that a parent actually has to be involved and come and pick up their kid's cell phone once it's taken from them.
No, that was, I don't know, that was a whole nother.
So I'm not, I don't sit on
45
policy.
minute conversation not to have the parent.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
is the policy committing that, in agreement that we move forward as they sit? That's what you guys do. That's what the discussion you guys had, not.
It's fairly in line with what we wanted done, and it's, you know, kind of like, don't let perfect be the enemy
Yeah.
of good type of a thing, or
Well
maybe I
said.
reverse that, but yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's something that we know that we're probably not going to nail it the first time around. We assess it, we keep monitoring how things are going, we get feedback from the buildings, and we modify it as needed. But as a launching point, I think policy is generally comfortable with the way it's written.
Okay, okay.
One quick question, I want to follow up to Ms. Burkmeyer's questions. With the access for the coaching staff and other clubs and things like that, if you're not an employee or a teacher, you know, we have access, you know, to that. And I know we do, you said we do provide it, but are we able to tell if like the usage percentage on that, if, you know, the coach, you know, reviews the grades or that we provide them, or?
No, not, I mean, basically you
I'm just
would
curious.
have talked to the coach. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, hearing none, I believe we have a motion on the floor.
We do,
Would you call the roll, sir?
sure. Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is a yes. Mr. Green?
No. All right, moving on to item number 2, MASB Delegate Assembly. The MASB 2025 Delegate Assembly will begin Thursday, October 23rd at 7 p.m. at the Grand Traverse Resort and Spa up near Traverse City. Delegates selected by boards of education across the state of Michigan will decide MASB's position on a wide variety of issues affecting education. All delegates and alternates must be school board members. Only delegates and alternates named by your board may offer motions and vote on issues. So the board needs to nominate a delegate and an alternate. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to nominate a delegate and an alternate.
And if I may, just to jump in like really quick, that's if somebody would like to attend, they're going to, nobody, because I know Sherry sent this out, but they basically told us tomorrow morning they're going to delete our block of rooms that we have because nobody's registered. So we have to either decide if people are going tonight or they're not. So yeah.
Are we required to send somebody? Like, is somebody?
Technically, we're
you don't
not
have to. Yeah.
required, but it certainly doesn't look good if we don't send a delegate. And I could tell you from attending a couple of these meetings, I think they go, and help me out here, Phil. I think they actually start on Wednesday, don't they?
Yes, it's Wednesday through Sunday.
And there's a lot of good sessions and a lot of good information up there.
Generally Wednesday, Thursday night are like those CBA courses from the MASB, not so much, and then it's like,
Courses start Thursday.
yeah, and then even Friday mostly, I think.
Yeah,
and
typically Wednesday is a legal update, then the courses start on Thursday, and then, yeah, and it runs through.
Sunday or
Yeah, no,
sessions.
I think Wednesday's just listed as,
But just kind of informational session.
Yeah.
Yes, there are
On Sunday?
some
I think they're usually done by like noon or 2 or something like that. They try to get out of there
Yeah.
a little bit earlier. So.
And the thing is, if you decide to go, I think Patrick, you found this one year, and somebody who decided to be the delegate didn't go, and then they will not let somebody else in if they're not on this like resolution.
Well, even if you're actually 2 minutes late,
yes, they
to
don't
the
let
door,
you in. So
it's like Fort Knox. They wouldn't
Yeah.
let me in 2 minutes late.
yeah,
You had to be here at the start time, sir. You're not welcome. So
Yep.
I feel like it was before that, but
I'm not passing up a free breakfast, but I don't know if I'm delegate material.
when is our board meeting in October?
we
Is it the
always
22nd?
schedule around this. I think it's earlier. I don't remember off the top of my head. Share.
We have a
He's
meeting
pulling it.
22nd.
We
do have a Ac-
meeting the day.
Actually, it might be the 22nd.
22nd. So, okay.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we do have, need to get a motion with, do I have anybody interested in going? Let's start.
I'd like to
there.
make a motion to appoint Mr. Sunnyberger as our delegate.
All right. I think that'd be a great experience. You're new
Delegate.
on the board if you're comfortable with that. Do you accept that?
Do I have to?
No, you absolutely don't. You absolutely don't. There's no pressure.
They do pay for you.
yeah.
Yeah, the expenses are included, mileage, meals are included as part of it.
Yep.
And the hotel is obviously taken care of as well. And there are probably 250 exhibitors. Everything from transportation to food to, consulting services. So
Well, like I said, I'm going, but being a delegate is,
so I can tell you that being a delegate isn't that
You got this.
big of a deal.
Yeah.
You'll listen to typically about an hour of MASB talking about their positions on some different things. You make a vote.
Back in.
You're not presenting, thank you. If I can do it,
Yes.
I'm confident that you could do it. So,
but I'd hate to disappoint Mr. Richards with my delegation.
I got confidence in you.
Yeah.
all right. So there's a motion for Mr. Sunnyberger. It sounds like he's willing to accept. Do I have a second for that nomination?
I'll second.
All right. Still back to you, sir. One last opportunity. Oh, how about an alternate? We need an alternate. Let's make it all part of the same motion. So, who's going to be the alternate?
I will recommend Mr. Green as an alternate.
I will take the alternate slot as I am very likely to be up there anyway. Okay, so the motion is for Mr. Sunnyberger to be your approved delegate and Mr. Green to be your approved alternate. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
We don't have to room together, do we?
No.
I mean, Lisa did.
You don't understand how far down this filter list I'm going right now,
Yeah.
and just not saying anything is probably going to be my best option.
If it-
Actually, so
That would be a strong likelihood if we don't know for sure by 9 a.m. tomorrow when they cancel the room. So there you go.
oh boy. Okay, with that, I think we've got a motion of support. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
All those opposed? Congratulations. You did say no, didn't you? Well, the motion still carries,
So
sir.
there you go.
The motion still carries, and I'm not sharing a bed, even if it's a king size bed. Maybe with me. We can ride together. All right, geez, let's move on to item 3, armed security recommendation. The district performed an RFP for armed security services. The district received 13 bidders. Based on review of the bids, it is the recommendation of administration that the board accept the bid from Fortis Group. Fortis Group was not the low bidder, but was the clear best choice for the district based on experience, quality of guard provided, and knowledge of the district and its procedures and protocols. Included in your board packet is a copy of the contract with the Fortis Group, and administration is asking the board to approve Fortis Group contract tonight. So with that said, I will entertain a motion to approve the Fortis Group contract as presented.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Mr. Powers. Let's have some discussion.
If we do not approve this motion, how long do we have to find a different agreement?
Basically, September 1st is, we have to have something new.
I think the agreement start date is August 27th.
Yeah,
August 27th.
That would be today.
that would be,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I think going forward, I would really like to see these motions come before us when we have time to make changes if we need to. So I feel like now we're kind of up against the gun. I read through the contract. There's one term that I strongly disagree with, and I'm uncomfortable voting yes because it's in there, and I'll read it for you right now. It says specifically, should Anchor Bay School District become dissatisfied with an officer assigned, Anchor Bay School District may request that the group reassigned, group being Fortis Group. The terms are defined up on the top of the contract. That the group may, that the group assign a different officer, Anchor Bay School District acknowledges, however, that Fortis Group is the ultimate decision maker in matters pertaining to the assignment of its employees. So obviously, I disagree with that because if we have someone who's, we don't want them there, we should have the ultimate say as to whether or not we allow this person in our building to do the functions we're hiring them for. And I know ultimately we could just cancel the contract and there's terms and conditions in there for that, but that adds another layer of complexity and I guess apprehension in wanting to correct any sort of behavior. I want our principals, our staff, whoever has controlled these guards to be able to say, hey, you showed up with, I'm just using an example, not saying they've done it in the past.
absolutely.
If they show up with political paraphernalia on them and they want to express their political opinions to staff and students, like obviously we're an apolitical institution. We're here for the best of the kids. If someone's doing that, doesn't mean that they're a bad guard. It just means that we don't want them in our building and we should be able to say immediately, switch that person out or make them change their behavior. And so with that, I want to know if there's a way that we can potentially change that term specifically to say that we get the ultimate say. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I believe that language was also in the previous one, and it's basically what that language is hoping to accomplish is we do, and they've been very good. If we have somebody and we're like, hey, for whatever reason, it's if you have it's kind of protection for their employees to a certain extent. If we wanted to, hey, tomorrow we want somebody new in this position, they're like, wait a second, typically the way that it's operated is we need to find another location for this person. We're fine. We'll put them to another site or another district or something like that. Just the time period so that's what that kind of is in there for, because it's the same thing like discussions that we've had as we've negotiated all this was, we've been using them. We use them for like extracurricular activities and things like that. And so we try and can we give them enough notice ahead of time and who's going to do it based off of that. So, I mean, we've been very good in being able to work through it, but that was kind of why that language is in there. And that's kind of how it's operated. But yeah, I understand that. And if that's the amendment and we want to kind of like work on that, we can rephrase it. So if we don't want them in the district, then, and I know Todd and Amanda can kind of chime in and this as well, just because they were kind of hands-on this in order to allow that to happen. So yeah, we can have, and it's never been an issue. If we don't want somebody, they take them out. It's just how quickly, if you want to move somebody from a different site and all that, because those people want stability as well.
Yeah, no, I understand. I don't believe that we've had any issue with Fortis Group.
Yeah.
And I can acknowledge that, things have been going fine right now, but this is obviously a concern if that
Absolutely.
they're reasonable now. What if a year from now they've decided to become unreasonable? And if that's a time thing, maybe we can add a stipulation like they have, 7 days to find somebody else or whatever that might be. But ultimately, we should be able to pick and choose. I think you said Mr. Rathbun and Ms. DePape wanted to add some comments. Yep.
Yes, I would just like to add that I do have a great working relationship with the leadership of Fortis. There has been occurrences over the last couple of years where that was the case. If something wasn't working out, they really leaned on school leadership to make some of those calls, and there was no problem with it.
How many, Mr. Pape, if you can specifically recall, how many times have we asked Fortis to remove a guard?
Probably twice now.
Twice in the 3-year deal is our last deal too, right? Okay,
Yes, and I'll stay connected 3 times now.
okay.
How long is it taken to replace somebody?
24 hours.
Okay.
I do have a couple quick questions. Just first and foremost, I strongly support having armed guards, on the Anchor Bay property. But at the same token, when I look at some of the general comments about the other bidders, a lot of the other businesses didn't have the experience and things like that. If we looked at that, 3 years ago with Fortis Group, I think maybe Fortis Group was in one school district, so there's a lot of reasons here that why we disqualified some of the bidders that we wouldn't necessarily qualified Fortis Group for, 3 years ago either. So if these are the type of qualifiers, and I know, I know that it's hard for some of these companies to hire 14 resources, that we're having 14, correct? So if we're having 14 resources, that's our expectations. To me, we should be sending these bids out a year prior to the expiration of that contract. Because I feel like, I have my back up against the wall right now because, Fortis Group is the second highest bidder. We have 8 or 9 other companies that bid on it. And a lot of it is due to the fact that, they're not able to, employ those 14 people. One of my other concerns is when I look at the total revenue per year, we just signed up Chesterfield and SRO, we signed up New Baltimore SROs for basically the same amount of money. So, if this is the direction we're going in and this is the high dollars that we're going to spend, to me, I'd rather look into hiring and getting more SROs, instead of having the Fortis Group. Just my opinion. We're pretty much close to the equal dollars. You're,
No, I would disagree with you.
I thought about 85 grand with New Baltimore and Chesterfield.
Both are over $100,000 a year.
All
And
right,
I would
so
say
we're 10, 15 grand up.
we're paying about half that for a guard.
Half that, 14. We're paying 1.1 million.
It was about 80,000, Dennis.
Yeah, yeah. So about.
I mean, I didn't calculate it out because I'm tired and crabby
All right.
and I'm not having what's the smiley day? What was the term you removed?
Not an outstanding citizenship.
I'm not
Yeah.
up any citizenship today.
Should have attended. Oh, you were there actually. Smiles. That was Mr. Tillman.
Whatever it turns out to be,
Yeah,
I can assure you we're paying more for.
Sure, but to me, 10 or 10, if we're paying, $10 or $15,000 less per year, times the 14, I think I'd rather have an SRO and pay the additional, but
Yeah, and I would also just say back to you, I don't know if we would be able to get 40.
Right.
no, right. No, I
Okay.
totally understand there's a shortage, but I'd
And-
rather have 10
Yeah.
SROs than 10,
Sure.
but
I understand your sentiment.
Oh, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you, this contract does not preclude that because there is a thing on there that it's staff. We don't have to have 14. You can scale that back.
Yeah. I just feel like, I won't be on the board in 3 more years, but, when they come back for another renewal or something like that, Patrick may be here, but, I just feel like we'll be up against, we'll be in a tough situation. It bothers me that we're going, to the second highest bidder. At the same token, I understand I do receive a lot of positive feedback about the Fortis Group. I strongly do support, armed guards, but at the same token, I just feel like they can, literally come back, in 3 years and double their price and, we're kind of, spending more money for Fortis. So that's just, my opinion.
So you're feeling like you want to make it clear you want to start this process
Yeah.
sooner in the renewal.
Correct. If we're, if we're doing these bids and, instead of giving them a week or a month, I think the bids, ended a month ago, whatever it was, but to me, a lot of the concerns was, they're not going to be able to hire 14 people, at the same token, even if we're able to, keep 70% of the existing, guards, obviously they want to keep some existing, but, to me, if that's a lot of our concerns as we're looking at the bids, and to me, we should be whether it's 6 months or a year out, give them that time to build up and things like that.
I totally agree. And the next go around, we will
Yeah.
take advantage of the time that we have with this contract to
Yeah.
make sure that we go out with adequate bidding time. Honestly, when we were working on this contract with Fortis, we received information about the increase in price, towards the end of the year. We brought it to the finance committee, as you'll remember, Dennis, and it was a recommendation of finance committee that we put it out to bid. I will tell you that the numbers that Fortis gave us before we went out to bid are the exact same numbers they gave us for the bid, which was reassuring to me in that I felt like they were representing themselves honestly before we went out to bid and saying this is the best price that we can do, because that's what they came back with in their bid, not changing the pricing at all. And just, the relationship that we do have with Fortis, it was nice to have that kind of reaffirmed, that they weren't trying to take advantage of us, that they were truly giving us their best pricing that they could. But I agree with you. We will always try and go out, and that's part of the reason we went out, after meeting with the finance committee, is because we want to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And we felt like this was important for us to go out and make sure that we were, kind of kicking the bushes and making sure that we were getting the best pricing we could. Yeah, and there was kind of two pieces to it. First of all, it was staffing for sure. That was, you identified, Dennis, is exactly part of the reason, but also, it was really the quality of the guard. Could they assure us that we would have, a retired law enforcement officer or someone equivalent of that, that's staffing? And we just feel that that is ultra important. We've seen in other districts where, a guard forgets his holster in the bathroom and walks out and leaves that. Would never want anything like that to happen here. We have a good track record with Fortis. Nothing like that has ever happened here. And Dennis said it, and it's exactly right, that the overwhelming feedback for Fortis Group has been tremendous for us here at Anchor Bay.
And if I could just add also is, coming into this district, going into, 2 years ago now, that was one of my main goals, is just have a really well-rounded, security team district-wide, integrating them, having them building those positive relationships with the students and the families and staff. And we've come a long way. Everybody, they're set in their buildings. I get feedback from principals and staff and students and families on a daily basis. There was just even a recent comment from a principal saying that their particular guard, they don't even have to ask them to do something. They could just give them a look. And there's already that reputation and just relying on each other and trusting each other. So really well supported within the community. And then also, not to mention, back when Fortis came into the district, I was still with the police department. And I can say that it was, at first, I was thinking, well, who are these civilian people coming in town into our buildings? There was definitely, we had to get buy-in from local law enforcement because there was that same mentality. So there has been multiple conversations at conference tables, just talking about rescue task force. And over the years, Fortis has built that trust within local law enforcement. Fortis attends state level and even school conferences that I've gone to. They have the reputation, not just locally, but they're in, I believe, 14 or 15 different school districts across the state. So they're doing pretty well for themselves. So just thinking about starting all over it was really, I was thinking that it would be moving backwards for the district. But yes, absolutely, going into the last year of the contract, definitely would start this process a lot earlier than we did.
Board members, anything else?
I just, of the 12 bids, I just wanted to point out that only one of them, under the comments that we have, only one of them, the only comment was they didn't have 14 ready to go. The rest of them had additional comments, like no experience in educational setting, no guarantee of, former law enforcement and military. So there were layers of why the other ones weren't picked as well. And it was only in one case that is the only time that they said they can't have 14 readily available.
And then also looking into their firearms training standards. We wanted it to be more than just a basic level of being able to point and shoot. So we were, my new security supervisor and we really read through all of these proposals, specifically at that firearms portion of it, looking through the trainings, making sure that they are going above and beyond the training standards. And Fortis definitely checked the box on that part. Year one, actually month one, when I came into the district, Fortis invited me out to their training facility. They had me train with them. They still invite me to come out and train with them. The training that they conduct for their school safety officers, some of the training, it was well beyond what any training that I have ever been through. I've gone through a lot of training in my law enforcement career, and just the top notch, high level experience that they're bringing in to conduct these trainings. I don't know if we could find that anywhere else.
Ms. Knox, I'm sorry. I thought I saw 4 that were not ready available. Bidder number 1, bidder number 6, bidder number 11, and bidder number 12.
Yeah, but my point was that number 1 also says has no proven experience in educational settings. So there was an additional
saying. Okay.
reason, and only one had just the staffing issue.
Okay, thank you.
I think the other piece that I saw in here was actually both you and your assistant, whom we're about to approve for carrying a firearm on campus. Actually, you're going through their qualification process, aren't you? Is that part of this contract? Did I see that in here?
Yeah, that's a value add that
Yeah.
they allow us to attend their training.
So that saves us from paying a local department, possibly paying for range time. There's some other expenses that go with that they have a range master that can certify you and your new assistant annually, so that we don't have an issue liability wise and
That's
concealed
correct.
pistol license wise and all that other fun stuff. So,
That's correct.
okay, any other questions?
Just real quick, I'm personally glad that we were able to work this out with Fortis. I think they've been a great partner throughout, the start of our time with them. If you remember back earlier in the summer when you guys in finance made the decision to send this out for bid because of what looked like some eye-popping costs, that information clearly, leaked out. Wasn't from us. Yeah, we'll leave that one alone. But there was some pretty irresponsible social media posts out there about how we were kicking Fortis to the curb because we, quote, didn't want to pay them. One good thing that came out of that for me was I had probably half a dozen either teachers or office staff members from different buildings reach out and say, please tell me this isn't true. We love our Fortis guards. They're completely integrated into our building as members of our team. They're not just armed guards. They build relationships with our staff, with our students. And for me, I understand cost is important, and I get it that they're the second most expensive out of 13. But when it comes to armed guards in our schools and school safety in general, for me, right fit is more important than cost. So look, are we going to double the contract every 3 years? Obviously not. At some point, cost does become a factor, but to me, I'm more about the right fit, and I'm very happy we worked this out with Fortis. I do have one just quick contract question, Todd. It said in there, I believe it could be extended for 1 to 2 years at the end. Does that have to be a mutually agreed upon extension, or do we have like the right to just automatically trigger an extension?
It would have to be mutually
Mutual.
agreed upon.
Okay, all right, that's good. I'm good.
Yeah, so it could potentially turn into a 4 or a 5-year contract at the pleasure of the board, and obviously with the leadership of Fortis. So, and I'm sure that would come with an increase, but of course. Any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, since it is a $3.4 million purchase, we'll do a roll call vote.
Good.
I'm good. Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Richards is a yes, Mr. Green.
Abstain. All right, moving on to item number 4. This is a discussion about our safety supervisor, as I referenced just a second ago. Dan Chenoweth, as our new supervisor of security, has worked with the state to secure his license to carry his firearm with his new role. The state recommends an action of the board to approve him to carry a firearm as a school employee, as does, I believe, our handbook requires that we authorize. So the recommended action is that the Board of Education approve District Supervisor of Security, Dan Chenoweth, to carry a firearm in his official capacity as a district employee. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Powers, supported by Ms. Knox. Comments, questions, or concerns? This is a similar motion to the one that we made 2 years ago when we hired Mr. Pape. Because again, the board policy does not allow firearms to be carried by employees.
Yeah, I met Dan at opening day.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Looking forward to seeing what he does with the school district. So I think it's a great add-on.
Yeah, he's coming to us. Actually, why don't you tell us a little bit about Dan? I don't see him here, so kind of give us his resume and elevator speech.
Yes, absolutely. He would have been here. He would have loved to be here. He had a family commitment, so he wasn't able to. So I'm sure he's watching out there or will be watching. So he's coming to the district. We did interview several candidates. He came in, I had no idea who he was. He was, we knew several of the candidates that we did interview. I can say at the end of the interview process, everybody in the room was hands down, yes, absolutely, it was a no-brainer. But he was in the United States Air Force from 2008 to 2014. He served many deployments, many key assignments. He was armed security for a Jewish private school. He served as executive protection for celebrities, but most notably from 2019 until this past summer, he was a school safety director for Avondale School District. So a lot of the projects that we are currently doing and a lot of the things that as the school safety department is doing right now, he's already been there, done that. The training and experience that he is bringing to us with the behavioral threat assessments, active shooter response. He is a trainer for CPI. The list goes on and on. The firearms training for him and itself is quite significant. He has also been for the CPL. He is a CPL instructor as well. Just when we brought him to the district, it really was a no-brainer. He's been here in the district since July, has been a huge asset, just another person that I can talk school safety language to, and he gets it. But otherwise, yeah, Dan, we are currently housed out of McDonald, but we are in the process of moving over to the high school as a unit, the two of us, just because those are bigger kids, more kids that we feel like our presence in that building could be probably be more beneficial. So
Did
that's
he happen
Dan.
to make it to any of the MSP's classes like you've attended? Did he have to
He-
make any of those?
Yes, he has attended the same trainings I have. We just didn't know we were in the same room together.
Great.
Yep.
Any more questions, comments,
You
concerns?
said he's been with us since July. Was he part of Fortis Group?
No,
Okay, what was his role?
he was a school safety director for Avondale School District.
You said he's been with the district since July. Our district?
Our district, I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hired him as of July 1st.
Okay,
This
Right.
piece is just the approval to carry a firearm on
understood.
campus.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense.
So he does have a valid CPL. It is through 2030.
Is it unrestricted?
No.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, hearing no more questions or comments. Mr. Secretary, if you call the roll, please.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Miss Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Richards, yes, and Mr. Green.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on down the agenda, the Anchor Bay, excuse me, self-contained mild cognitively impaired classrooms service our students with the most severe needs require an adaptive curriculum. Currently, these teachers modify elements of the general education curriculum to make it accessible for each student based upon their unique learning needs. In an effort to try to align with district curriculum initiatives to support MICI teaching staff and to create consistency within our classrooms, the Special Education Department would like to propose the purchase of unique learning systems. ULS is an evidence-based curriculum known for its data collection and progress monitoring capabilities, visually supported resources, a simple online staff platform, and rich curricular library of resources align with the Michigan Common Core essential elements. The Special Education Department is confident that if granted the opportunity to adopt the ULS curriculum, our special needs population will benefit due from the supports and curricular resources this program provides. So I will entertain a motion that the Board of Education approve the purchase of the unique learning system curriculum for the preschool through 12th grade MICI classrooms.
I'll make the motion.
I'll support.
All right, motion by Ms. Knox, supported by Ms. Burkmeyer. I see that I've got Mr. Cusmano and very good at the podium. So I guess I'll turn it over to you guys if there's anything you want to throw out. Any again, another elevator pitch you want to give us. Tell us why we should be purchasing this.
They have a very unique population in their classrooms, and they spend hours on end taking our current district curriculum, modifying it, adapting it, and making it individualized for each student in their classroom. That is a very taxing role for them. They get like champs. They do a fantastic job with it. But there are supports out there for us to be able to support them. There is this unique learning system curriculum kind of does that legwork for the staff. It will allow them to put more time into supplementing the lessons that creating small groups, working more one-on-one with students on the fly because they have to be able to just the really exciting piece of it is it's very supportive to the district initiatives we are currently working. It is designed to really supported. The youth life curriculum actually can be utilized with this program. So if we do have students who are functioning at higher levels in the area of reading, we can bring in our already utilized initiatives in reading, and it will be supported by this curriculum. It's thematic based, so it is a very exciting curriculum for us. Anything that is displayed, printed, created for our students is very engaging just based on the themes that are within and throughout the curriculum. Just to give you a snapshot of what it looks like, we can talk about a September unit might be back to school. So everything in the back to school unit for math, for science, for social studies, for reading will be focused on that one topic. So students are kind of embracing one topic, learning more about that topic, generalizing ideas about that topic through different content. So the math lesson, if it's counting, might be some process, for example. We have looked into multiple different programs. This really felt like it could be the one that could be vertically aligned across all of our grade levels, where our secondary is not doing something different than our preschool or kindergarten. It actually has a data warehouse as well, where a student can start in our preschool with this program, move on to the elementary, send all their data to the next teacher, and this parent can see reports of how students are developing. And that's something that parents within our MISI population do not always get the opportunity to see. As some of our general education students may get to see, their parents may get to see that on a monthly basis. It looks a lot different with our population. So there's a lot of opportunity.
I can almost just say ditto, these, wrap that up, but we're going to reading schools district also.
utilize this product, and this is something we've spoken with our county consultants, some of the higher affiliated staff. We've asked, as we've looked at the Teach Town, some of the other programs, what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks? So we even work with some of the self-contained programs with even more severe needs students. And there is a very rigorous ability to involve and fluidly address the need of the population. Pre-K all the way up to high school, which is a impressive program. We couldn't be more pleased. We hope have the consideration. We're very excited for our students, but also our team. Tremendous fun to accommodate our kids.
Any comments, questions, concerns?
No, this is, we met with them in curriculum committee, pretty much same thing. And it was shocking to me that we didn't already have something like this. So I really appreciate that, going from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, same curriculum, like you said, the data warehouse, everything. It's going to mean so much more for especially our teachers that already have a challenging classroom setting, to now not have the added challenges of creating their own curriculum. And it'll be, equal across all the classrooms, and then also for parents to be able to see their growth, which is something that we keep talking about in a real way.
Yeah, I agree with Jill. I think there were kind of more in-depth conversations about what the program offers in the committee, but it was kind of, I don't know, embarrassing / horrifying that we did not have it, to realize we did not offer something for these teachers in a curriculum up till now. And it was, when you consider their classrooms are the students in their classrooms are even diverse from one another in their needs and stuff, and that essentially the teachers were taking general curriculum and having to modify every single thing for every single student. And just thinking about the amount of work that goes into that, it sounds extremely overwhelming. And, that's not even what I have to do in a day. So I'm 1,000% on board with this, but also just kind of to the general comment, like I know that the district's doing a lot of different things and a lot of different spinning parts in all different areas. But like, to me, this kind of thing, like I would hope, if we have any other areas in the district where anything like this is lacking, or we don't have a curriculum, in place, like I feel like that's priority. And so if there are any other general areas out there where we're lacking anything like that, I would really like us to prioritize something like that, because frankly, I'm embarrassed that I didn't know that we didn't have something like this. So I mean, shame on me. I was totally unaware. So perfectly happy to do this, but also, I hope that we can, provide for the district anything else in similar nature.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought process too, as if you're speaking about it, if there's anything else that we can, add benefits or makes sense to purchase, I think, we should definitely talk about it. And, like to Ms. Berkmeyer's point, I'm kind of, yeah.
I'm glad you asked.
Right.
Library for our staff with hundreds of thousands of images where they can create individualized visuals for their students by
Yeah, we need to, get the quote.
of things that are departmented. So
Yeah.
forgot.
I think efficiency, probably the word I would use for this program as well. We've managed to cut supplementary expenses for a variety of other programs as a department we've been using, because this is kind of the all-in-one shop. I would say just kind of we've used a lot of great programs over the years, elementary, secondary, for our online programs. from teacher pay teacher, so now just the one-stop shop. Whatever, very excited for us. Everything's so.
For me, this is about equality for our teachers. We give some teachers curriculum and then we give some, we don't. And the same thing for students. Some have curriculum and then others are having to wait and have things modified and things like that. That's not equal education. So I think this is going to help equalize that.
I look at this as more an investment than a cost, and I
100%.
appreciate you guys bringing this to us, because to Ms. Berkmeyer's point, it's not an idea I could come up with. So thank you for your work and bringing this to us, and I'm happy to support it.
So I agree with the investment. It looks like it's about a little over 12,000, and it looks like it's going to be per year. So just make sure when you come back to talk to us, and I would assume probably June, you'll be here a little sooner next year, for a renewal, that have some feedback from your parents and from your teachers, and then you two as well, that you can share with us, because I think it's a great program. And to Ms. Berkmeyer's embarrassment, mine is equally as embarrassing that we didn't. I didn't know that we didn't have these types of tools for our teachers that are teaching these classes, and probably shame on us for not knowing that. Yeah.
Being hired where it is more and more. So I think they will really appreciate your support.
So if there are no more, anybody else, comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, if you would be so kind.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer. Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is a yes, and Mr. Green.
Yes. Thanks for your time tonight, guys. We appreciate it. And to the curriculum committee that reviewed this, I really appreciate that. It sounds like it was pretty in-depth. On to our next item, number 6, is approval for wage increases for our non-affiliated employees. This resolution is for the board to adopt new wage scales for our SAC employees, Mr. Powers, and other non-affiliated employees. In some cases, the wage scales have been adjusted for market-related increases, and in other cases, the wage scale has been adjusted to reflect a 4% increase between steps. This 4% increase for each step is consistent with our other settled labor contracts. So the recommended action is that the Board of Education approve the wage increases as presented.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Vandatelli, supported by Mr. Richards. Any discussion on this item?
I guess the question I have is, if we approve the wage increase tonight, and then we get this analysis we're looking for, and we as a board decide in a month we want to tweak the numbers, do we still have the ability to go back and reopen this, or is this closed for a period of time if we approve this tonight?
No, I think based on the comments from the board tonight, that we have some marching orders as a finance committee to understand what our next step is in evaluating the financial piece of this, and and the superintendent's going to share with all of us the needs, how many are enrolled at each school, how many people are on the waiting list. So to answer your question, no, absolutely not. I think this comes back in front of finance again, sooner rather than later, if we find that we are still under market or that we need to do something a little bit different. I see Mr. Rathbones at the podium. Is there something else you wanted to add to that?
No, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I mean, we did do some market research into this. We looked at other SAC providers, not just schools, even private SAC providers, because that's who we're participating or competing against. And that's kind of how we reached the numbers that we have on the scale for SAC. There were other market adjustments that are included in that for our security guards and also lifeguards to try and make us a little bit more competitive with, again, not just other school districts, but we also compete with community pools and so forth for lifeguards as well. So that was part of the driver for increasing them. And then you may recall in June when we brought before the board all of the other raises. 4% was kind of the baseline that we were doing. So we want to just kind of equalize, make sure everybody's getting that same raise. That's been a goal of ours for quite some time. And this accomplishes that.
Comments, questions, concerns?
Is this, does this does not represent all the non-affiliated staff?
No, because at our June meeting, we knocked out quite a bit of our non-affiliated staff. I didn't, if you'll recall, I think we went to what, about 12:30 in June. So, we had quite a full agenda. We knew that these folks weren't going to necessarily work over the summer. And so we felt like we could push this off to the August meeting and still, get their raises in place so that they receive those with their first paycheck.
So no, there's no non-affiliated staff like remaining at this point, if this passes.
I think this completes that group.
Okay.
And our minimum wage, if you will, by board policy is $15 an hour for any employee in the district in any capacity that's working hourly.
Yeah, and again, maybe the last piece I'll add is there were some previous steps that, due to what Patrick's talking about, they were under $15. We eliminated those steps and added some additional steps. So in certain cases.
Do we still, it's been a while because it used to be kind of a revolving issue for us in maintaining lifeguards. So I'm assuming we do pretty well now maintaining.
Yeah, that was part of the reason for increasing our pay here, was to try and attract additional lifeguards. We also extended the scale a little bit so that, we hopefully will encourage folks to come back, stay with us, so that we can address, because staffing has been an issue.
Do lifeguards still fall under the edu staff also?
They can,
Okay.
but we also have lifeguards that we hire directly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're kind of working both sides of that to try and fill the vacancies.
Do you know what offhand, Todd, the split is between the total number of lifeguards? How many are on the payroll? How many are on edu staff?
I really don't. I can find out for you, but I don't
Yeah,
know
that'd be
off the
great.
top of my head.
Anything else? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, if you call the roll for this one as well.
Sure. Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Mr. Richards, yes. Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Yes.
Miss Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Miss Knox
Yes.
and Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. Let's move on to our next agenda item, is the 2025 energy bond ratifying resolution. The resolution before the board is a resolution ratifying the sale of $10,590,000 worth of energy bonds. The bonds were sold on August 20th, 2025 to TD Securities, the lowest bidder. This resolution allows the board to ratify the sale of the energy bonds on behalf of the Anchor Bay School District. Recommended action is that the Board of Education approve the 2025 energy bond ratifying resolution as you have it presented to you this evening.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Vendatelli, supported by Ms. Knox. Conversations and questions?
Todd, is this regarding the Centrix bid from the last meeting?
Yeah, so this
Okay.
is the sale of our energy bonds that we hope to accomplish. A number of those energy projects that Centrex talked about will also accomplish our solar project at the high school utilizing these funds. Yeah, I think that's it.
Anybody else? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, if you call the roll, since we're $10 million in debt.
Put it like that.
Since I put it like that, you change your vote?
Yeah. Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Miss Knox.
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
No.
Miss Berkmeyer. Richards is a yes. Mr. Green.
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on to our award recommendations. Anchor Bay School District accepted bids on July 31st, 2025 for concrete replacement. Due to the large scope of the work, alternates were requested for select areas that would address immediate safety concerns. After review of bids, it is recommended that we accept alternate 1 at both the high school and middle school south from Forza Concrete in the amount of $108,600. Forza Concrete has successfully completed similar projects in the district. Recommended action from administration is the Board of Education award Forza Concrete. Forza Concrete. The concrete replacement contract as stated in the specifications, the amount of $108,600 as presented. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Mr. Vandatelli, supported by Ms. Knox. Discussion?
Mr. Jankowski, is this the concrete that you mentioned in the last board update?
Yeah, so this would be, so high school approach south and stuff like that, yeah.
Could you be a little more specific about the?
So
what
it
this
would be,
encompasses?
I'm part of this, I mean, there's other areas, but the main parts, we'll be looking at the south entrance to the high school is part of that. And then at south, it's in front of the building and other select areas.
The front entrance of the school is?
Yes.
And then what about the entrance in front of door 4? Is any of that going to be covered?
Well, yeah, and then there's other areas, but the main part of it is yeah.
That's,
Can you
the front
elaborate door
entrance.
4?
Yeah.
that's where the band goes in
Thank you.
Yeah.
At the high school.
at the high school.
At the high school.
Because
I mean, I would have to check to be exactly sure, but that's basically what it is. Yeah.
there's a lot of embarrassing concrete all over just about every entrance.
Yeah, we are going to come back at a later time and get most of it. But these are areas that we feel that we just have to do now, or that we can't wait any longer. Because I think it's phase, like it would be I think it's the 4th phase of the bond and all of that we would come back, do the parking lots, do concrete and all that. But there's just areas that we have to do in the short term.
Is this, are we repairing? Or are we actually gonna like dig up the tire?
This would be, it would be totally for it, yes.
Did you say at middle school south as well, or only, okay.
I was really taken aback by how low their bid was compared to the other two, like extremely low, to the point that it really makes me question if they even really understood the scope of work that they were bidding on. I think one of the bids was like almost 80% cheaper than the other two, and one was about half. And that's a huge red flag to me. Usually if someone is abnormally cheaper than everybody else, there's a reason why. And I've got concerns about quality of materials, quality of workmanship, if they really understand the scope of work that they're bidding on. Can anybody shed some light on why a bid would be so crazy low compared to everybody else?
I don't see Corey in the audience.
No, she isn't tonight. I don't know if I can tell you why their bid was so low. I can tell you this, that the RFP that was put out specifically indicated what the requirements of the bid were in terms of, the concrete, the depth of the concrete, and the quality of the concrete that would be poured. So, assuming that they are able to abide by, the pieces of the RFP, then we will proceed. Obviously, if we find out anything substandard, that changes the equation.
And we've used them before. They have completed
Yeah,
other
they've
projects.
successfully completed projects here before.
And are we like many years removed from the project being done to where it's like, okay, it held up over time, the quality was there?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're gonna dig up and tear out the South Drive entrance at the high school? Do I understand correctly?
I think it's the student entrance kind of on
Yeah,
the
walking
side
into
there,
the
that
school.
as you go towards the
Oh,
high
so it's
school
not
on
the
south
it's not the
end.
entrance into the high school, it's the sidewalks.
Yeah, that kind of,
Okay,
that
okay.
angular, the angles from wide down.
It
to
narrows down to
doors.
the 8 doors, whatever it
Yeah,
might be.
yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's especially on the south end there, it's pretty beat up.
And just one more question for clarification. So do I understand that if we need sidewalks replaced, we make it a high priority and we actually do replace our own sidewalks? Is that a fair question?
If the need is there, yes, we would replace our sidewalks.
All right. Just making sure.
And,
Point of
and
clarification.
likewise with these bids, they give us, typically it's a per square foot. So if we have other things that we want to add at that
You
rate,
can
yes.
dump it on for
Yes.
$6 a square foot or whatever. Okay.
Just think if we're gonna have them do this, just make sure we have someone as given oversight to make sure they follow the appropriate processes for staging and pouring the cement appropriately.
Yeah, I believe Todd mentioned too, don't we walk it and mark it prior to the bid too? Right.
Yeah,
you come out
we
and do a site
typically,
survey.
Right.
prior to the bid, we typically offer the opportunity for the contractor to come out at a pre-bid meeting, kind of look at the lay of the land, if you will, and if they have any questions about the RFP, that's their opportunity to ask.
Any further questions? Hearing none, we'll move on the motion. Mr. Secretary, if you would.
Sure. Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Ms. Knox.
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
No.
Ms. Burkmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Richards is a yes. Mr. Green,
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on to item B under award recommendations. Anchor Bay School District accepted bids on July 31st, 2025 for asphalt replacement. We received one bid from Asphalt Specialist Incorporated. The bid was complete and met bid specifications. It is recommended that the asphalt replacement be awarded to Asphalt Specialist in the amount of $58,400. The recommended action from administration is that the Board of Education award Asphalt Specialist the asphalt repair contract as stated in the specifications, the amount of $58,400 as presented to you this evening. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Vinatelli,
I will second.
supported by Ms. Knox. Discussion?
We've worked with them before. They were the only bidder, correct?
That was gonna be my question.
Yeah, we worked with them before.
Do we know if we worked with them before?
No, it would say it if we've used them.
I don't believe that is the case.
Were you surprised that we only had one bid for that type of a job?
Not for asphalt, no, I would say.
Yeah, I would say,
Okay.
just because I'm sure with the, with the state contracts, all the contracts for the roads going on right now, although,
Oh, all our wonderful roads are being done. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, all the roads are being done.
fix them.
Like
Everybody's
23 mile.
trying, for schools,
Get
they're
anywhere.
trying to finish their parking lots. And
Right.
so, I,
Get anyone to come.
Really?
I got a guy right here. for
So
you.
do you think it's just too small for these players to mess around with because there's so much
Yes,
going
sir.
on?
I'm sorry.
You think it's just too small of a project with everything else?
I do.
going on? Okay.
I think it's too small of a project.
Can we just make sure that we stay definitely on top of this one? Since there's only one bidder.
Yeah.
That Corey keeps an eye on it.
And this is for repairs at different lots throughout the district also, correct?
This is actually for the repair of what we would call the band lot at the high school.
Okay, so
So
this is the
it
band
was
lot.
already pretty deteriorated.
Yeah,
And then a lot of the heavy equipment that was renovating the high school was parked back there. And so it's deteriorated a little bit more.
Okay.
This will cover that all up and make it very useful for our band going forward.
Miss Sunny.
Yeah, we killed it over the summer.
Yeah,
It's bad if you haven't been inside
Yeah.
that fenced area.
No, it was bad before they started.
Yeah, now it's really
Right,
bad.
Now it's really bad.
It's like off-roading back there to drive through
Mhm.
because of the weight of all the equipment and everything back there. And I think we planned to do this anyway. I just don't know if we plan to do it at this juncture.
Exactly right.
Going forward, the use of that lot, is that going to be band only or are we going to use it for other things?
Well, we'll still use it because it's parking for sporting events that go back there as well. Yes. It won't be like a lay down area for like construction because the construction for the interior is done. We'll have other ones when we do the rest of the parking lots and approaches.
I think we still use it for like the baseball, right?
Yeah,
Ba-
yeah, it's
baseball,
still
softball.
Oh,
parking
football for
baseball,
sure.
Right,
softball,
rolls over
yeah,
football.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's just try to keep it in one piece. Other comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Vinatieri,
Yes.
Ms. Knox,
Yes.
Mr. Sunnyberger,
Yes.
Mr. Powers.
Yes.
Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Richards, yes. Mr. Green.
Yes, motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 3, other. Let's start with our board comments, and we will start with Ms. Berkmeyer.
I don't have very much to add tonight. Just hope that everybody has a safe and healthy school year, and everybody have a good night.
Mr. Sunnyberger.
I'd like to congratulate our freshman football team on their fabulous victory today. They shut out, I forget who they were playing, but great game.
Awesome. Mr. Powers.
I'd like to congratulate all of our students who survived 4 hours without a cell phone today. I was glad to hear there was only 6 incidents. And I think we should shoot for the stars and go for double it tomorrow. Maybe go 8 hours without a phone and see how that goes. I have a 7th grader who would have traditionally went on the middle school north path, and she's been very, very bitter about, being ripped out of north to be sent off to that other place that she never thought she was going to go to. And I spent all summer trying to reassuring her that everything was just going to be fine, and everybody's going to be in the same boat, and there's going to be some bumps short term, but this is all going to work out. Trust your dad on this one. So I have some real time feedback on day one that I just wanted to share with everybody. She came in the door after being on the bus. 0 complaints about the 40-minute bus ride. So that's a win. My first question was, well, how did it go? Answer, quote, I liked it. So that's not bad. Second question, what about the teachers? What kind of vibes did you get from the teachers? Answer, quote, pretty good. They were like nice and welcoming. So I do want to give a shout out to all of our South teachers who are like nice and welcoming, because I think that's important. And she was in good spirits, and that's I think everything is going to be just fine if we give it a chance to be just fine. So other than that, I'm excited for a new school year. There's a lot of optimism when the school starts off, and we're all pretty passionate up here. But at the end of the day, we all care about this place because it's a special place, and I'm looking forward to a good year. Thank you.
Mr. Vinatelli. Ms. Knox.
Just welcome back, and I'm looking forward to a good year, and welcome to all of our returning teachers and new teachers and teachers that have made lateral or vertical moves. That's it.
Very good.
Not much tonight.
Mr. Richards.
Short and sweet. I would like to thank Mr. Jankowski and the staff, opening day, at a guest speaker, Mr. Tillman, Chino, California, police officer. I was skeptical going in, but he actually did a really good job. So good that we're having a company meeting in Las Vegas in October, and I actually recommended reaching out to him. We had a tour today. Ms. Berkmeyer and I toured with Mr. Jankowski around the middle school north, the other school. We also walked around Lighthouse. It was great to kind of see a lot of the pictures live, and it was kind of interesting too, because there was a couple teachers still at I think we're at middle school north, right?
North, yeah.
So just to talk to them too on the changes, and it was really exciting to see see it live and things like that. Welcome back to the students. I'm looking forward to a great year, and that's all I have for tonight.
Great. I will also state same things that Mr. Powers stated. I'm everyone up here is passionate. Everyone here has the best interests of the district in mind when they make decisions, and I actually personally don't mind the heated debates, because we're all passionate. We all want to see things move forward. We want to be not only the best district in Macomb County, but we want to be ranked up there, in the top 10 in the state. So, and that's difficult because some of them have substantially better revenues than we do. And there's really nothing we can do about that. But I want to welcome, our new teachers. It was great to see them at the kickoff meeting on Monday morning. And if you guys happen to glance through all the resumes, I will just simply say that I'm getting old because these teachers have, went through college. I saw some Broncos, I saw some Spartans, I saw some Grizzlies in there, some Eagles from Eastern. So it's exciting to see new staff. It was exciting to see them at the opening day because they're excited. And what was really great was some of our more senior teachers, some of them, I think one was 40 plus years there is, and they're excited and they're smiling, and it could be because they're retiring. I don't know. But, they're treating all the new teachers the same as they, treat the teachers who've been around a while. Everybody seemed to be welcoming. I did see some posts that we did a 3-day, new teacher, orientation, if you will, here. And I think that's great. So I'm looking forward to a great year as well. I know, our football season's kicking off. I think we've got, some outstanding players that have joined our team this year. So I'm excited for that as well.
1900s.
Back to you, Ms. Knox.
Sorry, I forgot one thing. Years ago, my son, who's now a college graduate, had a mural that he painted in art class at South, and they called me and wrapped it all up so he could still have it. So like in 8, 9, I don't know, that's like the biggest project I've had to keep in my house from the kids. But it was just very appreciated that they reached out and were like, oh, Ethan would want this. And actually he would, because he recently asked me, hey, Mom, can we go over to South so I can go see my mural? Because that was really cool. Is it still there? I'm like, yeah, it's still there. But now he's going to find out. I don't know where it's going now, but well.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate just how thoughtful everybody is when we're undergoing renovations and just, thinking back to that.
It's going in the living room above the couch.
No, it's not.
Legislative update, sir. Are they doing anything?
They did,
They're
not,
arguing.
not really.
Finger
but
pointing.
They did, finally, the House, 56 days after the statutory deadline, they passed a general fund budget for everything else. They're maintaining their skinny budget for the school aid fund. That now they're just counting down till when they can do it. So, I don't know. Nobody knows. It's that they have not really been meeting. They have not been moving in any direction. I mean, the House had to complete this just so everybody at least had budgets out there so they could start kind of having those meetings across the different things. So that should start the process. And we're just counting down the time.
Is there any mention of, a lot of people are asking about school lunches, and I know, because the current budget would only fund through September.
Yeah.
Have both sides said anything about being in agreement to at least do that, or anything said at all?
No, not,
Okay.
but on the Senate and the governor's office would like to continue it. It's not even in the skinny budget per se. It's in the other budget proposal House put out, was to roll all categoricals into one lump sum. And then if a district so chooses, you could then allocate that. The challenge with putting it in categoricals, because one of the initial things that we're trying to do that they said was put everything in and then you could get $12,000. For us, that would actually be great if it was in the foundation. But then they hedge their bets because nobody knows where, like, we follow kind of like what tax revenues are and all that stuff. And they're just worried that things are going to go. We're kind of on that cusp of it could be a recession or not. So they aren't sure. Certain signs like the lottery, everybody always talks about, why not the lottery? Lottery's only $1 billion out of a $23 billion school aid fund. Okay. The lottery, even sales have been gone down by like 40 million, like last month alone. So they're seeing that. So they decided to just put 2,000 categorical. That is one-time money. They're burning through that would burn through all of the rainy day fund that they did as well. And there's no guarantee after that. So the House is saying you can do it if you want to. You're taking it out of that 2,000. But you don't have to. That same thing with everything. It would be the safety and security, the mental health money, the transportation funding, all of that would be piled in on that. And who knows where it's going to be. The ultimate thing is basically, and there's actually some agreement on this, is they're trying to get over $3 billion for the roads. So part of it is everything that happened last year, the rollback. There's a 3% health insurance contribution that the individuals made that they rolled back because it's overfunded. We kind of talked about this last year. They're now planning to place that onto districts. So again, overfund it, then take that money and they can shift it out. That's about $1.5 billion. Then the other approach is to take all the university funding, which for a long time until 2008 was never in the school aid fund because it was K-12. But now that's coming out. They want to push that and that would give them another $1.5 billion. That would come up with $3 billion. So that's kind of where it's looking right now, but who knows?
We're good for 50 days with free lunch.
We're good. No, we're good. Yes, if you take out of what they have. So the state will reimburse you through October 1st because that's the new budget year. Then barring that, yes, then we have it. So we have money in our food service account that we could do that for about 50 or so days. Same thing with the other things that are on there and in our general fund. But then after that, basically what the state has told us is that this is not the House or the Senate or the governor's office. It's the people that actually like in Treasury. They're like, if we don't have a budget by October 4th, you will not get a state aid payment. Because I don't know if most people realize we don't get a state aid payment during the summer. First one is October. And then we're like, and it's never happened that we haven't gotten one. But then the next question is, okay, if you don't get it and then say they pass it, will it be a week late? And so generally they're, and who knows, because this could change too, because it's never happened, is they would break that up over the rest of the payments. And then you'd get that instead of getting a double payment. So then this is exactly why the board did the 15% fund equity and all that, because that will allow you to kind of do that. But there will be districts that are already hurting and they won't be able to do that.
It's interesting. I have conversations with people and they always ask me about the lottery money. What about the lottery money? And I was at a meeting, and it's been a while, but I think the number was 6% that I was told. That's our cut of the library, the lottery money. We get 6%. The rest goes to general fund or wherever the hell it disappears to. So when you spend $1 on your lottery ticket, we're only getting 6 cents. So we're not getting rich off it here in the school. So I don't know if we have any board committee updates. Does anybody have anything they want to share? I know we talked a lot about them tonight already.
And we had the finance and the curriculum. Yeah, those were.
We've
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
already talked about what we did and know. So without further ado, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Vendatelli, supported by Ms. Knox. Comments, questions, or concerns? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting adjourned at 10:27.